All the meetings order, July 10th. Some announcements before we get started. Sage Center July August newsletter is out. It's Ice Cream Social July 7th. Started a Mahjong program every Wednesday from 4. There's also food drive going on. We're still looking for members on the Finance Committee, Conservation Commission, ZBA, Climate Change. That and all other openings are on the volunteer tab from the homepage, town website. Our regular business item A is public comment. Anyone here wishing to make a public comment? Irene, do you want to make a comment? I'm not sure she can.
Seems like we lost her. I know she intends to make a public comment. She did say she was joining from work. It seems like maybe there was a connection issue. But if we see her appear again, we could interrupt.
Okay. With that.
Here she is. Yep.
Can you hear us, Irene? Irene, are you there?
Irene, can you hear? Can you hear the meeting? Drop off again. Maybe I'll start with town manager updates, and then if she rejoins, I have no we can interrupt. First item on town manager updates is staffing updates. So the first update is I want to introduce our new town clerk, Amanda Hagstrom, who many of you have already met. So I asked her, and she said she was fine if I put her on the spot. So I mean, I'll preface by saying she stood out as an outstanding applicant for the position. Very excited to welcome her here, most recently from town of Lynnfield for a couple of years. And prior to that, town clerk in Lynnfield, and prior to that, city clerk in Amesbury, and also an appointed member of the city council in Amesbury. Really stood out in the process. So, well, she's toward the end of her second week. So I don't know if you want to introduce yourself or.
Yeah, well, you did a great job already, but I'm just very excited to be in West Newbury. I heard a lot of great things from my predecessor, and I've known Max and Rebecca in other scenarios in clerk's office situations, and they're great to work with. I think it's gonna be a great team, and it'll just be really good.
Good. You're still here after the second week, so that's.
It's been great, and the supply closet is very organized today. So I went in there. It's very good. Yes, both of them.
I do have a couple of other staffing updates. Irene, can you hear us? Are you able to? Oh, she dropped off again. Okay, so a couple of other staffing updates. We're still in the process of seeing a new conservation agent. We went through a number of interviews. Went pretty far down the path. We were not able to arrive at terms. We are continuing to look at applicants, and in fact, so Molly and I, the chair of the Concom, and I have identified another half dozen or so candidates. All have been scheduled for interview in the next week and a half. So we're still very much in the thick of that, and we're working to get that position filled as as quickly as is reasonable. Second, on the town planner search, we've received a number of very interesting applicants there. I'm in the process of reviewing those resumes, and all have been shared with the planning board chair, Ann Bardine. So she and I will be putting our heads together in terms of shortlisting and inviting people in for interview. I think it's likely we'd have some number of interviews scheduled for the week of the 21st. So both of those processes are actively underway. We're working closely with Jen Geary, Land and Building Services Administrator. She's very comfortable that during the interim, she's keeping things going in terms of process and agendas and packets and so forth. And we've provided any support that she needs, but she seems to, she's handling things very, very well. We've also got an agreement with MVPC on the planning side for Ian Burns to provide support for the planning board August meetings. He's out of town next week, so won't be at next Tuesday's meeting, but he will be covering the 2 meetings in August. So we'll provide some additional support to both the planning board and to Jen during the transition. See Irene again. Irene, you can speak up if your mic works, but I'll just keep talking until, or you just unmuted. Can you hear us? Just muted. Next item, I put some backup in the packet, the Page Pipe Stave crosswalk improvements. We did execute a contract on that. That was after it went through full vetting with town council and various processes. Commonwealth Construction was the low responsive bidder. And we had 2 meetings with them this week. Yesterday was the official pre-construction meeting, which included Mass DOT, but we also had a meeting on Tuesday. We wanted to meet more internally with key town staff, Commonwealth and TEC. As you know, they're the design engineer for the crosswalk improvements. We also have a contract with them for construction administration. So they're going to be assisting in inspecting key pieces, key phases of the work, with Butch being the kind of daily eyes on the project. There's a lot of work that's ongoing with, police details and coordination, but I'll just say in a nutshell, Commonwealth has represented themselves extremely well at both meetings. We have been very, very pleased. Obviously, the proof's in the pudding, but we're off to a great start. They seem very organized, very professional, very committed to doing a top quality job. And so both of those meetings went very, very well. The one on Tuesday was pretty lengthy. We went through all kinds of details. The one on Wednesday was much more, was just a 30-minute meeting. But I'm very glad we did the earlier meeting, because while we have handled significant construction projects in the past, including ongoing right now with Middle Street Bridge, this is the first time that we're doing a significant infrastructure project within state layout. So it is the state property, and we didn't know, not having been to a pre-construction meeting with Mass DOT, what kind of curveballs they would throw, but they didn't. It's fully permitted. Everything's on the up and up, and so the notice that I put in the packet is something we've tweaked just a little bit since then. We added the Children's Castle as a recipient as well. I think that was the only change. But we have sent that out to everyone listed on the CC list and are mailing it to abutters to Main Street west of the school, basically running to Chase Street, just so people have advance notice of the work. Right now, Commonwealth is working on a infrastructure project down in Woburn that they expect to take about 2 weeks. And as soon as they finish that, they're going to start here. So we'll get an exact start date from them probably a week or so ahead of time. But the expectation is that the construction could begin as early as possibly the week of the 21st or the week of the 28th. And while the mailed notice we put together says the expected completion date is before the start of school, the reality is they've said they think it's a 2 to 3 week project. So that's very, very exciting. My approach with the mailing is under promise, over deliver. I didn't want to say, and obviously it's a public meeting, so, but we do think it's more like a 2 week to 2 to 3 week process. But we didn't want to say that and then have it, because you never know once you get into a construction project. One other variable, the standard hours of construction for a Mass DOT project and what they specify in their permit is hours of construction of 9 to 3. That's not optimal for obvious reasons. So they are going to be seeking approval from Mass DOT to allow 7 to 3. Yesterday on the meeting, MassDOT seemed to think, you know, it wasn't up to him to say, but he seemed to think that's not out of the question. So we went ahead and put 7 to 3 on the notice, just in anticipation they may get approval. Right now it's approved at 9 to 3. Obviously, if it sticks with 9 to 3, it's going to make the project take that much longer, cost that much more because of police details and so forth. So we do hope they'll get the 7 to 3 approval, and that'll make it go that much more efficiently. Next item, pickleball permitting. That is the public hearing opens on Monday night with the Concom for the notice of intent. Wendy and Butch and I were there, not necessarily for that. We were there for different things. I was there for that, but that one, you know, very good start. Williams Asparagus, I think, represented the project very well in front of the Concom, and they'll be before the planning board Tuesday night for the opening of the site plan public hearing. We are working on refining or verifying some of the construction details. I've been working closely with Brian and Butch and with Williams Asparagus. We actually met remotely earlier today. We're fine-tuning some of the fence height, fence gauge, as well as the surface. We're leaning very strongly now toward an asphalt surface for a lot of reasons. And I'm in touch with Doug Mead and have asked the Park and Rec Commission to weigh in on that. He expressed his opinion that he feels that they would be very comfortable deferring to whatever we arrive at as the recommended surface. So I'm not sure if they'll post a meeting or not, but I kind of would like them to, just to kind of, you know, validate that. But it does seem that the asphalt is going to be a better way to go for both kind of longevity, constructability, and playing surface, like the quality of the playing surface. So I do expect the Concom hearing is probably going to go, I would estimate, 3 meetings, and planning board, I think, is reasonable to expect that will go 3 meetings as well. So my goal would be to get both of those hearings closed by the end of August, but, you know, we'll see how the process goes, and we'll follow along. It could happen this fall, especially, yeah, I mean, it could happen in either scenario. Obviously, the surface type has a lot to do with what type of construction we're talking about. If we do end up going with an asphalt surface, the objective would be to actually do the base course of paving this fall, then let it go over the winter before doing the top course of paving in the spring to allow for any settling. We think that'd be better for longevity. That would mean it's not a playable surface till the spring, but I think that would be a great trade-off to make sure we're doing it properly in terms of, you know, any going through a freeze-thaw cycle. We also had a really constructive and interesting meeting earlier this week with a couple of residents who actually run a pickleball consulting company, and they gave us some really good insight, and so we appreciate that advice. Irene, I'm seeing you back on the meeting. Can you hear us? Are you able to?
I am, and I apologize. My connection is terrible. I've now just come out to my car. Can you hear me?
We sure can. Yes, thank you.
All right.
Okay, go ahead, Irene.
All right. Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Irene Mahoney, and my family has been a very long resident of West Newbury for 54 years. My mom taught at the Page School, and I taught at the Page School for 35 years. I'm here tonight regarding our water bill and usage. Recently, my father passed away, and my mother is in assisted living. And we are renting out our family home here in West Newbury at 4 Training Field Road. The West Newbury Water, we're renting it out to a longstanding West Newbury family. The West Newbury Water Department, as you know, does readings and billings on a 6-month cycle. Recently, the Water Department contacted me regarding high usage, more than normal. Upon entry to the home, it was discovered that the toilet was running, resulting in high water usage. No one knew about this. Once it was discovered and identified, the problem was immediately corrected. And as a landlord, it would be difficult for me to know. The tenants did not know it was running as well. So when I received the bill, we were billed at a very high conservation rate. I wrote to the West Newbury Water Department requesting an abatement, perhaps the base rate, perhaps an abatement considering this unique extenuating circumstance and the situation. I received no communication from the West Newbury Water Department. No one contacted me to ask me any questions, clarify any information, gain further understanding of the unique situation. The only person I did hear from was Jody, the administrative assistant, and she was fabulous in communicating with me. I was not notified of when a discussion or vote would take place due to a staffing change that was happening, perhaps at the May meeting into the June meeting. It was stated that it may be discussed, but it might be tabled due to that staffing change. Evidently, it was voted on at the June 10th meeting. Shortly thereafter, at the end of June, I received a phone call. The West Newbury Water Commission wanted to put in a new meter. A new meter now that can be read and accessed on an app on your phone. Therefore, obviously helping with the 6-month problem that we had. I received that letter. I met them at the house on Training Field Road on July 1st. And that's when I received the letter stating their decision that they voted on June 10th. So that was a long time between that being notified on that. I was never, and again, just to reiterate, I was never contacted, no clarifying questions. They voted to for no abatement and the bill at a very high rate. So you can imagine that this is a very difficult situation. I just wanted to bring this to your attention where we have been such a longstanding family in the community. The tenants that I have in there are a longstanding family in the community as well. And I think this is a unique situation. We were not watering our lawn excessively. And as soon as the problem was identified, it was corrected. So thank you for listening this evening, and thank you for your patience while I got a connection.
All right. Typically with a public comment, you don't discuss it.
I would just add one clarification. She referenced the staffing change. I believe she's referring to the change in composition on the board of water commissioners, the election. So but if it's placed on a future agenda, we can go into more detail on kind of the situation.
Select board authority over.
That's why I wanted to say, yeah.
But I mean, she contacted me and I said that I felt like it was a resident or taxpayer that was happy with being treated by a town clerk.
And I appreciate her input. Again, there's nothing we can do. If it feels to me, it wasn't a solution.
So where are we at?
All right. So thank you, Irene.
Have a good night.
You too. Thanks. So the Page Telecom, as you know, before that was brought to the voters for funding, there was essentially a stipulation added to it, as well as funding to support third-party review. Just want to let the board know I have engaged. Oh, look who's here. Jim Blatchford's here. I hope we got his key back. Yeah, so we did engage a third-party vendor, Access to Computer Systems. I spoke to them to make sure clarity on scope. They had a good understanding of what we're looking to get done. So I have signed an agreement with them, shipped off all the documents, including the submittal that went to town meeting, all the backup on the E911, the scope, the specs, as well as the detail on the state grant award, which, as you know, in parallel with town meeting, we got a $72,000 state grant to offset the costs. So they're going to be chewing on all of that. I reached out to Jonathan Seymour. He got right back to me. He said happy to meet with the consultant, walk him through the project, both literally and figuratively. So basically that's ongoing. So I just wanted to let you know that that's underway, and I do expect to connect with the consultant sometime the week of the 21st for at least a preliminary update as to what they're seeing. Next item, Tree City USA Award and Growth Award by the Arbor Day Foundation. Credit to Fred Chinani and the Tree Committee, as well as Butch, the tree warden, who you may or may not know, actually goes to most of the tree committee meetings. So that's a kind of a, he does indeed. So that's that's been a nice recognition these past several years that really grew out of the work, so to speak, grew out of the work of the tree committee. And then two other brief updates. The board knows this, but I'll just say it. We did reach agreement with both the highway union and the dispatch union, and those memoranda of agreement are both in place, which is great news. And we're in the process of drawing up the red line contracts. We'll have those to the unions sometime in the next week in the hope of getting a fully executed contract, at which point that'll be shared publicly. But that's a big milestone for both of those. And then finally, I think I'd mentioned at the last meeting, there was information about a potential state earmark. We have since received confirmation through Senator Tarr's office that $50,000 earmark did end up in the state budget, or it's actually in a different bill, but that has been signed by the governor. As you know from prior earmarks, it takes some time before we will work with the awarding agency to get a contract in place, get a scope in place, but that will definitely appear at a future select board agenda of how best to allocate those funds. They are specific for improving pedestrian safety on the 113 corridor, but within that, there's a number of different options. So we'll be talking to Butch and Chief Dwyer, and then bring that before the board to get some guidance on that.
Action items, IFA is request for acceptance of donation of the now greenhouse.
We have the sign. No, it's in the spot. Yeah. Max was out sick today. He was gonna bring it down. And have you all seen it? Have you seen it, Ross? Oh, I wish we'd done it. Sure, it's a nice thing. We got a lot of people here. I think I'll go grab it. Why don't you go to maybe the next item, and I'll just, because it's a nice thing. Maybe you can read the what they said in the packet about it. Sure.
So this is the wording that goes with the NAPS donation. NAPS greenhouses. What began as a humble flower shop in a small town grew quite literally into a cherished local institution rooted in family, tradition, and nature. Napa Forest first opened its doors at 187 Main Street under the ownership of the Red and Hazel Knapp. Many of the flowers used in arrangements were grown on site. In 1965, Dave and Julie Marshall purchased the business. Although the ownership changed, the heart of the business remained the same. In 1995, the business was renamed Knapp's Greenhouses, reflecting a renewed focus on growing and selling high-quality annuals, perennials, vegetables, and herbs. Knapp's became a destination for gardeners and plant lovers throughout the region. Over the course of 53 years, Knapp's Greenhouses was more than just a business. 3 generations of the Marshall family worked together, passing down knowledge of values, shared love for home. So, you see that?
So I want to personally commend Max Close, our assistant town clerk. Is his initiative to contact the property owners, see if they'd had plans for the sign. They were very happy to donate it, and we wanted to put it before the board to memorialize that it's a donation and that it didn't just appear here. So that'll be the next discussion, so at a future meeting. Yep.
The motion to the donation of the Knapp's greenhouse.
Fine.
Thank you.
National Grid. We have Brian here. Hello.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Hello, Select Board. My name is Brian Sathler. I'm here representing National Grid, located at 1101 Turnpike Street in North Andover. I'm here about work request number 311-37891 about a installation of a new
on our end, or?
I don't think so.
Is it?
Hmm.
I have no.
All right, looks,
Maybe if you try without video, Brian? You still there? Brian, can you hear us?
Yep, I been reconnected.
we can hear you
able to
now.
hear that, or
Yeah, but you dropped off after the first part.
okay. National Grid is seeking to install a JO pole on Middle Street. The pole number be 162. Pole is for system reliability purposes and system upgrading in that region. Seeking for your permission.
I did confirm with Butch that he's supportive of this and doesn't see any issues. He was willing to, he had offered to be here tonight, but he's going to be here later on the agenda for the MassDOT discussion. And I told him he could stay out at the bandstand to listen to the concert. And if there was a question that you could table it and talk about it later this evening when he's at the meeting.
So
Of course.
which pole is being replaced, Brian? I was having trouble with the diagram.
Let me do a
Um,
share screen, Brian, just so you can see what people here are seeing.
Yeah, of course. That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Middle. Oh, so it's not replacing, it's just adding.
Yes. So thank you for sharing that. So we'll be adding a new pole. It should be pole 162 along the center there.
Okay.
Yep.
Question from the board.
Just to notice everybody else on I believe she put the phone saying, push the on the road. Motion to approve the pole installation, what's the 3113789 National Grid. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
right.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Item C, request for appointment to the finance. Committee. Brian Flynn. Brian, you here?
Yeah.
And how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Any questions for Brian, or did you want to, any comments, or?
Sure. Brian Flynn, I am a resident of West Newbury, moved to West Newbury about a year and a half ago, live on 9 Pleasant Street. I'm currently the executive director of the Lynchburg out of the YMCA. So I have experience running facility, finances, and managing staff, and so I figured getting involved in the town that we live in and love so far would be a good idea. So I talked to Angus on the phone quite extensively about different opportunities and figured that finance committee was the best fit for me at this time. So
Yeah, it's a real need, so.
yeah, or yeah.
Any questions?
Just to be clear, the application went forward as not request, so it's just the finance availability.
Yeah, we're on the finance committee, that's.
Yeah, I originally applied just to get my interest out there to see what was available. So yeah.
I would note that we have the current chair of the FinCom, Dennis Lamoff, is here, and I think he's here at least in part to meet you, Brian. So maybe you guys can talk afterwards out in the hall. So
Just to be clear with what Wendy said, just so you understand, on the finance committee, you can't participate on other committees in town.
Yes. Yeah. Angus explained that. Yeah. Yeah.
And some people get on before and then didn't realize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make a motion to appoint Brian Flynn to the finance committee, what's the term duration?
it's typically a 3-year appointment. Let me see if that's
But he's filling somebody's spot.
right. Let me
Yeah, let's do them on.
Till 2050.
So I think these vacancies don't have terms on them. I think it would be reasonable to, it's a 3-year term, so through June 30th of 2028.
Favor?
All right, if I'll just add one more just point of interest. I had reached out to former FinCom member Gary Roberts to kind of test the waters as to whether he might be interested, because in addition to the 2 vacancies shown, we have reason to expect one of the members is actually going to be moving out of town. So we'll have another vacancy coming up. And Gary did confirm with me he would be open to an appointment. He would be willing to serve, provided it would be a 1-year term. He's not ready to jump in for 3 years. As we know, he put in a lot of time in his years on the committee, but he is willing to serve. So I had that confirmation after tonight's agenda was posted, so that will be on the next agenda on July 24th, and we'll be getting close to a full roster on the FinCom. And
Changing.
I'm sorry?
Everything.
Correct. It is in flux. Yeah. So I don't.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So, and I can't remember, Brian, if I mentioned this when we spoke, but part of why it's so short-staffed is that Ross Capilupo is now a select board member. He had been on the FinCom until the election, and then Rob Phillips had been on the FinCom until the election. He was elected to a planning board seat. So that's why we have a couple of vacancies on short order. All right, so Amanda will be in touch with you tomorrow to see about getting sworn in. Great, thank you.
Item D is a request for appointment of associate member to the pond. Questions or comments?
Cultural. Well. There's no opens. Oh, there are no full-time slots on the pond.
Yeah, so this is just associate position for the pond, which is a bunch. That.
We'll look into both. So.
Just one at a time.
Yeah, but they're separate, separately agended.
Two. Associate member up to June 30. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Thanks, Ross.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all right, all of you.
Just making your first motion, the first one.
Awesome. All right, item F is a request for appointment as records officer. Tax from town clerk. So I need to
Yep, this is well, Amanda's been hired as a staff person for as the town clerk. There are 2 additional designations that the board is asked to formally make. One is the records access officer. The second is the ethics liaison to the state. And we put together a brief memo in the packet with advice we got from town council, I think probably about 14-15 months ago. You may remember, I had been kind of asking the question for quite a while, how many of these appointments that in the old days many of them were made every year. And so we went to town council to say what appointments need to be made once, what appointments need to be made annually. And we got a very detailed, I think it was like a 5-page with every single position, what needs to be done, and there's certain nuances. Some have to be done a certain time of year. So these are both one-time appointments. that would not come before you unless and until there's a new town clerk in the future. So,
And is these appointments always the template? Yeah. Right. Favor? Aye.
thank you.
Thank you. Always wanted this appointment.
Next item is requests for appointment to agriculture. Before we start this, I just want to say that there was a deadline in, the posting for this to submit applications. We did receive one after the deadline. I just asked Anne's office to hold on to it. That's something I want to consider tonight. Okay. Good.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, so for the Trumbull. So her application is not in here, I haven't heard. So would you like to hear from each of the candidates, or I can ask questions? Well, typically, if it's one person, I didn't know to introduce yourself, but we have several people here, so I was trying to get a sense of you getting value, which you could have. Go explain why they want to do this.
I was very envisioning it, I suppose if somebody wanted me to comment, that would be good to hear, but I was thinking, like, why would you do it with people? Okay, we're, it's people from the field.
Fine, again. I have an opportunity to comment.
All right,
Yeah.
Okay.
Certainly.
all right.
Ask more procedural questions? Sure. I actually think clearly stated, you have to already select the person on which they originally talking about Ross, they put an application, it's on the table.
I was assuming that.
Okay, just making sure.
So I'm willing to still shoot that.
Okay.
Just make sure you change your mind.
No.
All right, so, if we are going to invite people to speak now, I feel like Lisa's at a disadvantage. So that people. So. What I said, I didn't know if other people would come after the deadline, so I said, we'll just hold all the, late applications, and then we are not able to go with the next deadline.
It's a good show.
Okay, so let's go in order by the way they're listed on the agenda. So first, Johnson, Bennett. You're first on the agenda. And you're not obligated to make a statement, but if you want to embellish on your application and why you're interested.
John Adams, after the town a few years, had an army here, almost as long. So the long board right down the street. I don't really know me, I try to hide as much as I can. And that's something you can pay for the business, which is way better.
So are both of you interested or just you?
One of the
Okay,
other.
okay. All right, Mr. Baker?
Yeah, I think Lisa probably would be better than me, but she's on the board of registrars and can't be on the other board. I put my name in, put it in, we run I play sell maple farm. We've been doing maple turf, over on Middle Street for 11 years now. It's a very small family farm. It's not my main source of income. I'm a small businessman. I own a couple of companies, both on that 291 Main Street. I run out of there, so I think you all know me from Board of Assessors and all sorts of other activities in town. So, do you have any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Just for clarity, the Rossins, and they said basically just, just almost.
No, I mean, Lisa Bingo, my wife. Yeah, sorry.
And you were also on the right farm in that one.
Yes, yeah, John was on there, I was on there, yeah, with, Chris Grant and, Lisa and Stephanie Long.
Next up is Mackenzie. Hi. Hi. Would you like to talk to us, William, or am I good? I think you're okay there. Okay.
I'm Mackenzie Buchholder. I've been a West Newbury resident for 7 years. I've been engaged in agriculture for whole life, and I care about advocating for our community's farm workers and farm. I'd be happy to.
Okay. Chris Grant, I don't think he's online. Oh, wait, let's go. Yeah, we have the application, Bob Jane. Anything?
No, what? Just that, you know, I grew up in town. I wasn't raised on a farm, but I lived all day, but I lived, I began my own. It was like, you know, West Elm Street, Sullivan Farm, right across the street, so I was there every day. Worked for Albert Elwell, worked for Cherry Hill Nurseries, stuff like that, so I kind of been around. I just, also just wanted to make sure that there's somebody, and then, I didn't realize everybody was, but had some, you know, agricultural experience. And it isn't, we go, no, it's that, it's just, you know.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Let's see, Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
You.
All right, would you want to move on to Anne? Hi, Anne, do you want to?
Sure. I'll chime in. I'm Anne Seelig. I'm at 28 Garden Street. I've been a resident here for over 5 years. I have a background from growing up in Missouri, agricultural. Haven't done a lot out here, but I have a lot of equestrian history as well. I am really interested in promoting agricultural within the community and finding out more about the right to farm and, you know, how we can best represent that in West Newbury. And I'm looking to, you know, encourage people to have small agricultural businesses. And I would love to work with this committee. And I know a lot of these people on that are also represented here, and would love to work with them.
Thank you. Catherine, are you having technical difficulties?
Her microphone is definitely muted.
Yeah, it shows you're muted.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get audio and I think you can hear me now, but I can't hear you. So
We can hear.
if you could just give me a minute, I'll try to figure it out.
All right, Lydia, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Lydia. My family purchased Evergreen Farm last year. We've lived in town for 6 years now. We raise Christmas trees and pasture-raised livestock, herbs and flowers and vegetables. And before Evergreen, I've worked in urban agriculture as well as rural agriculture, mostly vegetables and animals and livestock. I've also served on the governor's ag board and so I have some experience with some of the policy side of things and just really love town and really want to make sure that we're supporting farming operations here and figuring out ways to collaborate more. So yeah, thanks. And I have a nonprofit background as well. So.
Right. Do you like Catherine? Still you.
I can hardly hear you though, Wendy. I don't know why. I could hear Lydia just fine, but I'm having trouble hearing you.
Catherine, we can
It'll
hear
help.
you. So I think if it helps.
Okay.
Lydia's my translator. All right, go ahead, Catherine.
What am I supposed to be doing? I just popped in and don't really understand what's being done.
You're just introducing yourself and
Oh.
yeah.
Okay. So I'm Catherine Marone, and I was a member of the Ad Hoc Right to Farm Committee and feel that I've got a strong working knowledge of Massachusetts right to farm law. And I have a good working knowledge with interfacing with the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, and am kind of excited to see the new farmland action plan that they're in the process of putting together. And I've also been a equestrian for, probably over 60 years now, and have owned a number of boarding and training operations through those decades. So feel that I can bring a strong working knowledge of the equestrian component of right to farm, along with the sheeps, the llamas, and the donkeys, and the pigs, and the chickens that a lot of horse people tend to have on their properties as well. And I am a strong advocate for farms of all sizes in our town. And lastly, in addition to that, I'm a licensed real estate broker in Massachusetts and New Hampshire since 1987, and have a really good knowledge of how right to farm disclosure, which is required for right to farm communities, came into play, and probably have a good way of being able to implement that as seamlessly as possible, and educating our community and our area real estate agents that West Newbury is now a right to farm community.
Here are the applications. So she is on the Housing Authority. She was part of the Right to Farm Ad Hoc Committee. She's on the CPC. Relevant skills, 20+ years of chicken and duck farming, 15+ years working with Sustainable Harvest International, an NGO teaching sustainable farming practices in Central America. Also served on board for 9 years, currently Moranis board member. Worked as a wrangler in Wyoming, worked with horses, works on vineyards in Sonoma, California, gardener, and a member of the West Newbury Garden Club. So we have a wide and deep pool of candidates here.
If you don't mind me elaborating on, if you guys have a different way of wanting to do it, would be agreeable to that too. I was just thinking that one way to do it would be to just go through all the applications, and the way I see it, you're voting up and potentially voting down. Seemed like it would be a little bit unnecessary to me. I thought it would be less awkward for us to throw names in either way, based on what we're doing. And just hopefully put it up.
What's your suggestion?
I've got a committee, I think, is a plan, out of the change vision, the flow well together. So, choices, say yes, no, is it open? It's kind of open to that.
Okay, does that work for you guys?
Yeah.
And, give a brief explanation on Ross, select it, I think for the first one on the committee, that's kind of helpful to communicate that. Chris Grant, he's sort of the face of farming. Must be going forward, he was on the Right to Farm Committee. Same thing with those. Bob Jason, because I think he's got the historical reference. But really, be critical on this. Rich Baker, the two word assessors, different type of farming, serve. I think that makes a really good committee. No disrespect to the others. It's just, they're all great. And what's bad, but to me that is a well-rounded committee.
Yes. I'm going to ask Bob. I couldn't tell if you were applying to fill a slot or if you're really adamant about it, you know?
I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
I put my name in because I didn't know how many people had applied.
Right.
And I wanted somebody that knew the town, knew farming, and all this kind of stuff. And with everybody here with their qualifications, it does not break my heart if I'm not, I just assume, not do it. I have enough to do.
Yeah, I kind of got that impression.
I did it, like I said, I did it because I just want to make sure somebody
Yeah,
on the committee, you had, number one, you had enough people
yeah,
and that they were, knew about farming.
right.
But that's also, I mean, I can just take my name out and I'm fine.
I'm not asking you to do that.
No, I was not
Curious what
but
level
With,
of,
with everybody that's qualified here, like I said, I have enough to do with other committees, so. And there are people that you're well represented, so. I'm fine.
Do you have a suggestion? Instead of them?
I thought Mackenzie's qualifications looked great, which is here, and so I was, that she was appealing, wasn't knowing, but I just thought she looked very qualified. It looks like she's worked in the field all the way up to other goals for that. So
I guess if an associate membership is not spelled out in the bylaw, can you appoint positions or not?
Well, why don't I give my opinion, then I'll ask Amanda because she's more versed on, public committees. This came up a number of years ago with the Harbor Committee. We had a couple of very interested residents who had wanted to be part of it. The Harbor Committee, under the town bylaw, is a 3-member committee. The select board at that time wanted to create an opportunity. They didn't want anyone to feel excluded. The Harbor Committee is a non-regulatory committee. It's an advisory committee and it takes very few votes, and the votes it takes are non-binding. So I think the board at the time felt that having 2 associate members, even though someone could question, do their votes count? In that instance, the select board felt that didn't really matter because the Harbor Committee really doesn't take any, it doesn't have any authority. So in that instance, the select board did appoint 2 associate members, even though the bylaw didn't provide for it. I think it's questionable. I thought the spirit of what they did, I thought was good. It was actually my suggestion because it felt like that committee, you'd had the same 3 people for many years. You had 2 new people. It seemed like a good opportunity to get more dynamic, get more people involved. That was a particular moment in time. I would say, since the bylaw doesn't provide for associates, if there were any votes, I don't know that those would be, binding votes. Yeah, but even in the absence of a member.
No, they still don't.
Oh, they still don't. So,
It's just when you. So.
yeah, I mean, all of the meetings are public meetings, so I think anyone and everyone here could go to every posted meeting. I think if there's more than the 5 in the bylaw that would kind of have standing, I feel like you are the appointing authority. I think that would be reasonably within your discretion. But I would like Amanda's frank opinion. I have no idea what your opinion is.
Well, usually if it's not outlined in the law, it would be up to a charter, but we don't have a charter.
Okay.
So where this committee isn't like a housing authority, we can go right and find that. I would be willing to call the Attorney General tomorrow, their office, and see how they feel about that, because I don't know.
That's fair. Yeah. You give me the stink eye.
Well, it should have been in the bylaw, that was the intention.
Yeah.
I entertain, that's on the overreach.
All right.
I just mean, on our part, I think we did it, not, I would feel uncomfortable doing, let's have 5 associate members, so, wait, is it, yeah,
All right.
terms, there's how many 3 years, how many 2 years, and how many 1 years.
1 year. 2, 2, 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine, making a motion. No. You guys have needed from.
Yeah.
For us to the bank got the 1.
Thank you. I was gonna ask for 1.
Okay. I think that's 1, 1, 2, 2.
Okay, so. County 2, for sure, I know it just happened. Thank you. the motion.
All right. Any discussion? I just want to say to everybody that was not appointed that these are public meetings and I'm sure that, well, it's okay. With you.
I just want to make sure I have that clear. So that was Ross for a 3-year term, Rich for a 2, Mackenzie for a 2, Chris for 1, Lydia for 1. That was a motion. Was there a second?
Well, that wasn't the motion.
Oh, that was not the motion.
Chris for 3, Chris
Oh.
and Ross for 3.
Oh, Chris and Ross. Oh, sorry. Okay. Got it. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I ask one further question? Sure. This is the new committee. Who is taking charge of organizing the first meeting?
You.
Go ask. Okay, who has the phone? Angus, you or?
Well, at the first meeting, the first order of business would be to organize, designate a chair in the absence. Oh, yeah, no, we can circulate all the information for everybody who was appointed unless there's objections, we could circulate the contact information for everybody. We normally do not, we don't post on the website people's personal contact information, but it seems like in the spirit of what we're doing, I don't think anyone would object if we just provide all that to everyone on the committee, and that way you can self-organize among the committee members as well as those who have expressed interest.
I couldn't quite hear who the motion was for. Could you repeat it?
The motion was for both Ross and Chris Grant as 3-year term, Rich Baker and Mackenzie for, nope.
1 year.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Okay. Lydia and Mackenzie as a 2-year term and Rich Baker as a 1-year term. Sorry about that.
Go see Amanda this time and we can on number, circulate a list.
Yeah.
That way we give everybody the option.
I do want to note, and I think that select board knows this, but that the bylaw that creates this committee is still pending with the Attorney General. So that that was sent to the Attorney General very promptly after the town meeting vote, but that office does have 90 days to approve it. It is not legally in effect until the Attorney General approves it. And in my experience, they often do take close to the full 90 days because with the spring town meeting, they're getting bylaws from 301 towns across the state. Cities do not have to submit their ordinances to the Attorney General, but towns do. So it's not legally in effect. I think if the committee met, personally, I don't have an issue with that. I think it's fair to say nothing they do would be binding. But if they're just getting to know one another and getting organized, personally, I don't see like a downside of that. If they comply with the open meeting law and post it as if they're a functional committee, but until the Attorney General approves the bylaw, they should just be cautious to know that,
But we wait something and then I'll take responsibility for the class numbers and coordinating.
Okay, so it's only 24 days.
Yeah, the 90 days would be into like early to mid-August. So we're really not talking about, much. Now, if the AG comes back and either, disapproves the bylaw or amends the bylaw, that's almost never happens, but until they approve it, it's not approved.
There's a severance clause on there.
Yeah,
So
Yes.
the committee probably would be allowed.
Yeah,
something else.
Yeah, it would be, in my experience, like, I can't imagine there would be any issue. I've done a lot of bylaws over the years. I can only remember like 1 or 2 where they did like a line item adjustment. I've never seen a bylaw disallowed wholesale, and this is not a zoning bylaw with the public hearing requirements that a zoning amendment has. So there's really no procedural defects that could have happened.
Well, I'm sure you're gonna say. Nothing better to do, right? If not, all right.
All right, so Amanda or Max will be in touch to see about, although maybe, I don't know, gets people sworn in after the AG. We'll talk about that, yeah.
I can contact them for guidance. On
Okay.
committee type
Good.
bylaws and yeah.
Perfect, thanks.
Thanks. Well,
All right, item I, ask DOT request for approval to authorize additional signage. Responsibility.
All right, so this request arose out of my outreach to them earlier this spring, which had followed correspondence going back to, I think, last winter, probably 18 months ago. As you know, we'd had a lot of correspondence petitioning for the electronic advanced detection system, and well, actually, I'm missing a step. They had proposed the Overstreet sign to go over Bridge Street. The select board had a couple of meetings on that and ultimately did not authorize that, and instead really advocated for this advanced detection system. We had been told about a year ago, or probably April of last year, that the state was that they didn't want us to go any further on that because it's state infrastructure, not town, and that if that was going to happen, it would need to be under DOT because it would be kind of a novel application of that technology. But they did represent that they were going to kind of run it up the flagpole. Time passed, we hadn't heard anything, so I followed up with them, and we had a remote meeting. I don't know, what was that, probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. Butch joined me for that, and basically what they said was, this was District 4, Paul Stedman and Frank Sosinski. They said that basically when the Overstreet sign was voted down, and this is them speaking for themselves, they said they should have moved promptly to these additional signs, but they kind of acknowledged that it kind of fell off their work plan. But they said, like, that's really what they would have intended to do, is if the Overstreet sign wasn't going to be approved, to kind of quickly go to this additional signage. They acknowledged they kind of lost track of it with their workload. And then when I had followed up, I had reminded them that as far as they were concerned, was still a loose end. So basically, they see the signs that are in your packet tonight as completing the signage and striping scheme that they largely implemented a while back. Obviously, it's within public rights of way that the select board oversees as roadway commissioners, so you would need to authorize these signs. When Butch and I spoke to them a few weeks ago, they basically said they are going to continue to explore the opportunity of an advanced detection system, that they would want that to go forward with kind of under their letterhead, not the town. And they said they would intend to reach out to the city of Haverhill and to explore that in a coordinated way on both sides of the river. They didn't suggest that was going to happen like immediately, but they did say that continued to be on their work list. But in the meantime, they said they had this other signage, and so I said, send us what you're proposing. And so they did. Butch took a look at it. Chief Dwyer took a look at it. Chief Dwyer didn't have any concerns about it. Butch is here tonight, so he can speak to that. But ultimately, it would be up to the select board whether to authorize the additional signage.
First one, that's just for the bridge. Yeah, so what is the text that's gonna be on that sign? I was confused by the,
Down River Road with the white.
oh, but why is that text on the sign? What is that? Like the other signs have the text that's gonna be on the sign above.
I think, wouldn't it be this that they're showing? Yeah.
Or they actually show the sign. Now that one in the red is kind of like directions or details about the. I mean, I assume it means trucks would turn right, but.
Makes no sense. You gotta put the weight restriction on River Road.
Exactly.
Trucks that need to business from River Road.
Yeah.
That was mine.
I have an idea.
That did come up on the conversation that we had, the weight exclusion. We made sure they were aware of that. Their feeling is that in a balancing of interests, that they would much rather have a truck go right on River Road than try to get under the bridge if it's over height.
It doesn't look like the sign is the same, they're just resetting it. Is that why they didn't put a overlay over that sign?
That's a new sign.
Yeah, this is a new sign. This does not exist
There's
today.
nothing there.
Oh.
Like, yeah.
Well, look to get here though, they have new signs that they're gonna post in advance of this, plus what, you've got to driven by 5 signs to get to this, so.
Yeah.
They're probably not gonna stop anyways, it's almost. I mean. It's just very strange. This flashing thing was been sitting for a year. I don't think the state needs to coordinate with Haverhill, you could fix 50% of your problem by doing the West Newbury side right now. Maybe set the lead so Haverhill will get on board. Again, I wasn't interested in the flashing sign. I think if we put in a crash bar, it's not gonna be fate on this bridge, so that happens. I don't want to oppose putting in the signs, but I don't think it's gonna fix. First, who's already drove past 5, not gonna lock up the brakes and see this one.
And so what was the DOT's response about the crash bar?
They reiterated that it would be a novel application of this technology in Massachusetts. The only place it's in use right now is at Store Drive. So they have to run it through a lot of different, it's not a District 4 decision, it's a Boston decision. And my speculation is that in addition to kind of specific questions of kind of how it will work and effectiveness, my assumption is that part of why Boston might be hesitant is one thing, they may not fully appreciate the uniqueness of this situation, the fact that 2 regional school districts rely on this bridge, the impact on the regional economy when it's out of service, the kind of unique historical characteristics of the bridge that I think make it more susceptible to an overheight incident than perhaps a lot of other bridges in the Commonwealth. And that's the one thing we did talk about, Butch and I talked about with Paul Stedman and Frank Szynski on the call, was to make sure in their communications with their counterparts to emphasize those features that make this really unique, because I'm assuming that the people in Boston are feeling that if they put this into place here, that they'll have 50 other communities around the Commonwealth saying, oh, we want that too. So that's just, yeah, like the overheight detection system. Oh, the crash bar. Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. Yeah, no, I don't think we really talked about the crash bar. Yeah.
Conversation that they were not in favor of that.
Yeah, or damage to, and damage to vehicles. Yeah.
Do a Google search.
They're gonna hit a crash bar.
It would be to stop the debris flying off the truck onto the ground, road behind.
Stops the vehicles pretty quick in general. The bars place on.
They
That's
want
how fast
feedback.
they're going.
Is this the crash bar, not the dowel? No, we have the.
By the way, if you don't have a crash bar, you're gonna hit the bridge if the truck is tall. So if you do have a crash bar and somebody gets hurt, they're gonna get hurt on the bridge, so why not prevent the bridge from getting damaged?
And
If it's gonna get either way. I mean, to me, it makes no sense why there's resistance on the right solution.
is it possible to visit that?
Of course it's possible. Yeah, I mean, this is fully within the select board's jurisdiction. Ross had asked me, was DOT looking for feedback on this? And well, they're looking for approval.
I don't know why that one sign would not be yellow like the others. I mean, the other ones look like they were yellow, aren't they?
Yeah, that much.
Would be more of a warning sign than a post sign.
Yeah. But, I guess they're the experts.
Did you want to make a comment? Can you introduce yourself and? Yes, Kirsten Norton, I live on 5 of them. Okay. The last time I had a bunch of photos, 14 existing signs, that they ignore. And they have to ignore this sign or sign the new one that's going to come up Ferry Road in order to, for some reason, pay attention to the closer sign. I don't really understand, it's like wallpaper at this point. And I feel like the crash bar, which I'm not exactly sure I understand, but it's sort of more like my idea, which is like a crash bar with a rake that just says dot insurance. Because, you know, they just knock that vowel around. The crash bar is a rigid structure. Yes. So that's great. And it will, nobody wants to do that to their truck.
I mentioned this a while ago, if the state would entertain it, it doesn't have to be ugly, somebody on Facebook posted a cute little one. You could make it going across the street to replicate what like the bridge itself, and put some pylons down the side. It doesn't have to be just a piece of raw steel or blade. So I think
Raw steel with rust though, that would blend in better than.
they just put a sign
Or yellow.
that says, I dare you.
Yeah. So, it sounds like they want to put signs in, right?
Yes.
So what about if we agree to the 2 signs, not this one, that I think the right, this part of the 2 other signs and ask for, crash bar? Or do you want to just find out about a crash bar?
No, I have no problem with doing the signs. I would like the conversation to further to have a real solution. Just crash bar mechanism.
I think this was kind of the next step for them.
I mean, I hate to say no, because if something happens, they're gonna say, you guys did put it out.
But what do you think about that 3rd sign, right beside the bridge?
It's,
We've done it. There's another one right past it and another one to the left.
It's not even visible. It was yellow, make yellow ones.
But even yellow, like, if you look past it, there's one there. There's one at the foot of the hill. There's one above.
Maybe some writing on the road.
There's one across the street.
I mean, they probably
There we
have like various locations signed on track that it's not gonna increase the likelihood of a bridge hit, so if they feel like sending a crew there and driving one more sign in, so, yeah.
Oh, it means whoever's walking has to step into the road. It's ridiculous. Really?
I'm sure they can accommodate the location in the person on the shoulder.
I think something permanent would be sushi. I don't know why they not interested so far, why they like some of them.
I think they have to push for it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because when the bridge gets hit, it's the insurance company.
Everybody in the county is paid, because to get the school buses over,
Well, yeah, there's
to get
that.
to work, it's just, last time it happened, complaints.
Wendy,
Yes?
Claudia Woods Eston, I live overlooking the bridge. And what happens is some of these drivers don't know what 12.6 means because they may know the metric system. And I've seen them back up and try to make a phone call because they don't know how big their truck is. So another sign isn't going to solve it.
All right. Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to accept the first 2 signs. With the compensation to restore at the same time, just so it went to more the realistic possibility of a crash bomb.
Further discussion on that. Thanks, is that?
It sure does, yeah.
But Shannon, we're good.
Okay. All right, all of you.
Thank you. I do have Butch and I do have a remote meeting tomorrow afternoon with DOT. We put that on the calendar just to provide a follow-up from tonight's meeting. I'm going to be out next week and I wanted to make sure it didn't, languish. So we will be talking with them via Zoom tomorrow afternoon to let them know about tonight's meeting and to emphasize the crash bar. So if anything interesting comes out of that, we'll certainly let the board know and put this on a future agenda.
So do you favor crash bar or?
The electronic lighting is the same as the sign. Not trying to, I mean, you have to physically stop these people before they physically stop themselves at the bridge. So if there's enough signs, I don't think a flashing sign changes anybody's opinion, as the lady said. Either they don't know the height of their truck, or they think they're gonna make it out of it. They probably.
Read that for them, just so we can give Angus direction. That's right now you can ask them to say that, except it's with fire door.
Right.
The vehicle, talking about vehicle detection or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about vehicle protection. I don't know how does it. What's the method
It just
to-
makes it flash the light on one of you, but
But it is successful where it is.
Well, that's a question that I think warrants more attention, because we had talked to, this technology is allowed in Massachusetts. It's just only been used, we're told, only on Store Drive, but it's there's a technology company, I think it was Ocean State down in Rhode Island, that, yeah, and another one down south. So we had provided in prior packets kind of the product specs that show kind of how it works. But we haven't kicked the tires, and I think we'd have some curiosity as to, does it really work, or is it something that when there's a snowstorm, it's going to be flashing, or what kind of, yeah,
the company that's down south is APCO.
APCO, right? Yeah.
PCO, Safe Travels. And another one is up here, that's what would be a APCO. And it's like, I was saying that they're ignoring them, but you're still
About a year and a half ago, we had gone so far with this as to talk to one of these vendors, and actually got a preliminary price proposal of what it would cost to install this. And we have all those schematics in our files. We could add that to a future agenda just to provide more background, because it might have been certainly before you were on the board. Chris, I can't remember if you were on the board at that time too.
flashing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rick has it.
Yeah, and what had happened was really two things. One is the state said if this was going to be done, they would want it done on both sides of the river. So that obviously implicates the city and the Rocks Village Historic District and so forth. But secondly, they said if this was going to be something they would authorize, it was something they felt the state should lead on and should pay for, because at that point we had actually a draft article on a town meeting warrant to actually seek funding to go ahead and implement this in West Newbury.
That's interesting that though, because that kind of like feuds the risk of it becoming precedent.
Well, I think that's part of why they stopped us, because we were kind of fed up. So we kind of had gone to like, well, let's just explore this ourselves, talk to the vendor. We had a remote meeting with them. I think you were part of that. Yeah. Might have even had a couple of meetings. I think we had a couple of meetings with them. Yeah. And that was when we kind of shipped this all to DOT to say, hey, we've spec'd this out. We've gotten a proposal. And that's when they said, well, pump the brakes. So.
And with the crash bar, is it sacrificial, or it's not a bridge, obviously, so I can't imagine that it would be a freestanding structure that's strong enough to stop a vehicle. Does it need to get fixed? Does it need to get fixed every time it gets hit, or?
That's how hard they hit it, how much they carry.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty sturdy piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And it will withstand it, and like I say, the driver's gonna know they hit,
Yeah.
and they're gonna know they can't go forward and back out.
Suppose you had to replace it after they hit it. That would be a beautiful thing. You don't have a $5 million bridge to repair now, but the repair, 3 years of downtime on the bridge.
Yeah.
You take that thing out, place it back in a week, and then charge the insurance company.
Well, I think one of the two things should be on there, just as far as which is more suitable. That's kind of what I was doing.
I like your idea of making it look like a bridge. I mean,
I think
really, it could just be
the profile of
almost
the
like
bridge
another,
with a 2 foot,
yeah.
half-inch plate
Beautiful.
steel on the
Same
bottom,
color.
to cut the roof off. 2 foot or 3 foot wide trusses up the side, so it'll be structurally have integrity. It'd be done. It wouldn't have to look ugly.
How far in front of the bridge is this typically? We don't say right, it would have to be like an engineering idea.
I would think it would be somewhere between River Road and the bridge. It would be pretty close to the bridge.
Well,
Yeah.
that would be-
Because it would have to be to get both of get River Road and Bridge Street.
So do you feel like you don't have that information to the direction, that's fine. He's talking to DOT on
Yeah.
a portion, that's what we want.
If you two are supportive of that, and you have more to say than I do, I agree with.
They did indicate, and I mean, who knows how real this was, but they did say when we spoke to them, 3 or 4 weeks ago, they did not see these signs as the, kind of ultimate solution. they saw this as something that was kind of low hanging fruit, but they did express their commitment to continue to pursue, a more long-term solution. So I guess we,
It's not like I can say this is the next step to lead to something more permanent. No, we didn't want to skip a step, that's what I got out.
yeah,
You mentioned that the state also hesitated because it has to be both sides of the river. You push back on them and say that's not relevant. It's gonna eliminate 50% of the potential problem by just doing this side. Even if Havel never endorses it, why, when you can eliminate 50% of it pretty easily, would you not? Maybe if it goes in and it does prevent it or it looks attractive, maybe Havel will not consider it. But I think that's not a legitimate concern to say. And didn't they say they were gonna talk to Havel?
they did. Yeah.
Maybe they have, and that they might have some answers.
Yeah, I doubt they have, because the impression I got was that they wanted to kind of send something on DOT letterhead to kind of officially engage the city, and they didn't want, because I had mentioned when we spoke, I said, from where I sit, this could be a good opportunity to have something to work with Haverhill on. We don't have a lot of opportunity to, and I had talked about, we could meet with the mayor and just kind of sound it out, and they were kind of like, well, we really want this to come from the state. So we'll find we'll press more on that tomorrow.
And they want to be like in.
Yeah, they didn't want us to go rogue.
Again, if they did it like the profile of the bridge, both sides, I know this historic district is not particularly ugly.
All right, so you have input from the board, thanks.
I do.
I
Yes.
will say, injury, evils, historic issue, if you're under 12-6.
I'm sure we could come up with all kinds of snap slogans.
All right, whole meeting itself.
That's right. All right. You voted, right?
Yep.
All right, item J, request for approving the FY 25 line transfers, FinCom met on July 8th.
They did with, there's one adjustment. So let's see, the proposal number 16, there had been a reserve fund transfer pending before FinCom on Tuesday night as well. Unlike line item transfers, reserve fund transfers do not also need select board approval. Those solely within the authority of the Finance Committee. And the reason this town building operating expense was so significantly overspent was because of a necessary repair to the AC here in the town office building that came up in mid-June. That was about $7,200. I think it was like $7,141 and change. So at the same time we had this packet that's before you, before the FinCom on Tuesday, we also had a reserve fund transfer. They approved that reserve fund transfer, and therefore in their vote, they reduced this 9282.55 by 7141 and change. So it's actually a lower amount. I didn't put that all together for tonight, but so it's basically everything's before you other than this amount would be about 7150 less. There is a precise number, I just don't have it. But they did vote these. So with the board's approval, these would be Jenny, we put together all the forms, so we would get the signatures and then she would make these adjustments. The FinCom did, just for expediency. Thank you.
How was that in terms of prior to your plans?
Well, a couple of observations. I think we are still, hold on, let me just, what item was that? CI. All right, sorry, I'm just making sure my notes are. So in the Public Works, I think we are still kind of working out tight protocols where we basically have multiple senior staff collectively managing the same budget line. So the linchpin on that is Caitlin Barker, and she does a fantastic job. But for her to ensure that's all managed, she needs really good communication, really consistently from and timely. So there were a couple of instances where there were some funds kind of already authorized, really, that Caitlin wasn't aware of. So that's something we met with staff as appropriate, reinforced, that really can't happen. It wasn't anything, I mean, these weren't like big dollar items, but toward the end of the year, as you know, we're down to the pennies, and we need to know if there's a commitment made to do some work like out on the, park and rec on fencing or the basketball striping. Like we need, Caitlin Barker and Jenny need to know what those expenses are so that we're able to manage the line. So that's something we had a meeting, 4 or 5 weeks ago. We went through in detail and not a big deal. I don't want to blow it out of proportion, but that is part of why there were more in the public works than there might normally be. Secondly, it did create a challenge in putting this all together. The fact that the FinCom's meeting was July 8th, the statutory deadline for processing of fiscal 25 invoices, July 15th. So as we were putting this together late last week, and actually, I mean, we've had a draft of this since the first week of June, but the numbers keep changing because we process warrants every single week. And we're going to have more warrants processed before July 15th. So there will be additional activity. Actually, I'm glad I brought that up because we made that very clear to the FinCom, and I want to make sure you understand it too. These balance after transfer numbers will change because there continues to be activity in these accounts. Some of them, they won't change because they're accounts like select board operating expenses that don't get a whole lot of activity, but things like electricity, there's activity year round on those. So these ending balances will change, but there is no invoices to be processed between now and July 15th that, from Jenny and my point of view, will overspend the lines. So it's all within the budgeted lines, but normally we like to have the FinCom line item transfer meeting on or around July 15th. But due to various people's travel schedules, that wasn't possible. So we had the meeting at July 8th. So that means there's a few more moving parts than there might be.
Couple of questions. Police chief's one. He has a statement, said we had several unforeseen expenses this year to a vehicle fix. This again, EVs?
I don't want to speak for him. I think so, but
Yes, we heard 3 were in the shop.
yeah.
I talked about policies and we visited, that's one thing. With my EVs, because they have a policy, but they're not dependable and durable. We have to revisit that in the 2. So that caught my eye. The other one was with the market was talking about the additional grid gas expenses, bill 55 and 26,000. You know, that have a significant increase. How's it almost double? Bill numbers, expense items, so expenses to increase national grid gas expense. Fiscal year 24 gas, 15,546. Fiscal year 25, so 26. Just the price of gas, though. Yes, both of them have to share a lot. So I don't understand that.
All right, I'll get something. And
Yeah,
this is the kind of thing that probably 4 or 5 weeks ago I might have known, but my mind is mush. So, but yeah, no, I understand, but yeah, the answer is known. I just don't have it in my head, so we'll follow up on that, get you that information. Thank you.
Item A, review and vote the proposed housing fund. So, at issue there was whether to include Brakefield as a property. Jump ahead a little bit to the MTA working group, just met for this meeting and decided to submit Brakefield as one of the parcels as well. So I would ask that we add it to the housing production plan. Next time. That's not the top choice, but we're just trying to keep it possible option. And Angus clarified after the last meeting that all it has to do is beyond housing production, it doesn't have to be like in the process of being sold.
Yes, yeah.
I think that's
So you're asking to put it in the housing production plan. Not necessarily need to do.
There's one of the potential of the working group chose 3 sites to submit to the state. Highly unlikely that would be the site to choose, but if we're submitting it to the state, she would be on production.
It preserves the option for that property to be there.
I would like to isolate that to 5 or 6 acre slices.
That's the, if we were to go ahead, that's how it would be a. But that is not the top choice, in fact, that was just added.
Talked to Rob last week, I think. Too many choices to move to a focus.
But if it's a 90-day review process and we only submit one and they turn it down for something.
This is your third choice, it's your first 2.
So the top choice is the housing process, but it can are not connecting. The second choice is the Society's John's parcel, town 1, the private property. So we want to have also. So those are 3 completely different parcels, so that's the range of options that we have as a town. And the idea is we'll see if they're pre-approved, and then we'll make a recommendation about the parcel which should be on board. We'll decide based on that, either take a recommendation.
Yes.
Is there an issue to add to the housing correction plan exclusive?
I know that leads to, yeah, that's the issue. It's not a housing production plan, we're not going to be a house.
Right.
So. Who knows of all we need to expect.
Just putting it in the housing production plan, it's not really, changing.
Think then. First 2 options fall through.
You say if they fall through, that's the state doesn't accept. Maybe that's done on the state, they're both reasonable options. The state would have to give you extension to follow up on the process, so it wouldn't be throwing 3 off.
But that's not required because we're not talking about sense, which I'm.
That's fine, but I think they will understand. I
just want to comply. I want to.
be not if you get 2 valid parcels.
I'm in favor of preserving our options. This is not the last chance. If the working group says, yeah, we want Great Hill, it's still up to the board to say yes. We have the final say before this.
It's like if we're on the housing production plan, you can pretty clearly say you're going to throw it in the TA with some generous other ones. And it was one small piece of it specifically identified, that would be one thing. I think it opens the door, then the consequences. The motion is voted.
Right, we move to add the curriculum. So,
Yeah, I would just one item for discussion. So, I know, planning board obviously meets Tuesday. We knew when this was put on tonight's agenda that if the select board voted the HPP in the form in front of you, that would be the final vote to submit to the state, because what was circulated for tonight is what had come out of the planning board. Assuming this motion passes, the next step would actually be to send it back to the planning board to make sure their endorsement is of the same document before the HPP is sent to the state. So where they're meeting on Tuesday, I haven't looked at what they have posted as an agenda. Okay, so that was my question, is would we be seeking them to change their agenda for Tuesday to get this to them for next week? I would say, obviously, we're without a town planner right now, and I can't be at Tuesday's meeting, so. Okay, so you're comfortable with this being on with, okay, all right, great.
So this, on the housing production, how long beyond that list?
I think you can revise it.
You can revise it anytime, but you do need, just like you need state approval for the housing production plan, you would need state approval to amend it.
So
It's typically 5 years. It expires in 5 years.
Chris is concerned, the first two choices, one of those two planned out. So concerns person. This is the green.
Yeah.
But if the whole parcel is being specified.
But in the housing production plan, I don't. You know, I just, can you do like fire?
I think you'd be hard pressed to do it because there's no legal description. First of all, there's been no real kind of, I mean, there's been different ideas kicked around within the working group of like what portion of the site might make sense, but there's not been anything put to paper on that, and that's not been part of any vote. So I think the town would be hard pressed to like select a subset because there's no description of it. There's no map of it. And the analysis that MVPC did in their compliance model was of the whole parcel. But the zoning, if it was brought forward, would be, it would have to have a subset of that. So there would be a lot of work to do with if Break Hill were the proposal, and it's not a sure thing that that's even possible on the timeline.
I understand when Chris, being entitled to an extension, you know, in the event that two the options acceptable to them. Personally, something to be said from just getting this extension.
Why would the state perceive Break Hill is better because of the actual process?
No, I mean, one thing is the Society of St. John is agreeing this parcel. It's not explicitly excluded in the regulations. So we're going based on MVPC's opinion that it will qualify.
No, it wasn't intended, but it makes you are, so I don't see how the state, if they want to shoot you in, first of all, we have time. And I just don't like, again, what happens to Break Hill after it's on housing production? Even if it doesn't go to MBTA housing,
It
now.
would have to. Let's say it.
Let's have a town meeting.
We want, yeah, it would be this good thing, which,
You know, we just start going down that rabbit hole, if there's someplace you might not want to be.
well, I don't think the worst thing in the world to fall apart now.
I would just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You haven't identified, you said, you want this 5 acres here, like, boom, this is a last minute change that, again, I've always said this meeting, when it moves too fast, we step the pile. Just. I'm not comfortable. No.
Just, you know, for what it's worth, the 2018 housing production plan had identified the Coffin Street property as suitable for housing. The 2018 open space rec plan also identified the Coffin Street property as suitable for land protection. As you know, since that time, that has been acquired as open space, but all along it was listed as suitable for housing in the housing production plan, and it really didn't affect anything other than it appears in a publicly approved plan as being suitable for housing, which is not nothing. But legally, it's not zoning, it's not authorization for disposition.
But if Break Hill were to go forward, or all three went forward to the town meeting,
No, that's not, it's not mine.
it's not the intent, why would it know?
If the other two fail, then I'm on my.
Fail at the eligibility with the state, not fail at town meeting. Yeah.
I think.
Is you worried about, at some point us, essentially something happening excess of 5 acres or some small.
Yeah, I mean. And of course, I'm connecting the problem because a house purchased from the town many years ago. Coming out of 61A, that's a sort of put on at the land board. And I said, why are we signing off on this? So 495,000 for 110 acres of land. So just gonna build 2 houses. And I said, no, I'm gonna put a package treatment plant and build it out. So I went back to the select board, to the Concom, and I got them to endorse the town taking the right of first refusal on it. So we bought a pretty magnificent piece of property for very short money. And after it was over, found out, yes, the developer was gonna put a package plant and build it out. And to have seen that like that, so you preserved this pretty magnificent piece of land, so if you're gonna do something on it, I think it should be looked at closely and studied, not just at the last minute, suggested in case something falls through elsewhere. I just don't like that constantly. It's been shortlisted, but it really hasn't been researched. I mean, it's 110 or 105 acres, so to sit there and put the whole parcel there, I just don't know what other exposure, what other consequences, I just. Particularly when I think they're two very valid and reasonable parcels being answered. What did you have, you know?
So it's from.
Well, bring it to in a sense. Right,
All in favor? Aye.
I boss. She's
All right, so, I will touch base with, I guess with Rob. Ask him to add. Acting as chair of the planning board, right?
Ann's back in town.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, we met in person, I want to say earlier this week, either late last week or early, yeah. He was asking Rebecca late today about the agenda. So I don't know, but Ann is back in town.
All right, request to approve fund disbursement option, settled.
So some of the materials on this were sent out separately. They had been marked attorney-client privilege, so we didn't post them on the web. But what it boils down to is there's a number of potential PFAS settlements. There is one that has been settled. And the town, we received an initial payment of about $16,000. And in the letter that came with that, it said that that represented about 20% of the total amount, which leads to a roughly $80,000 that the town of West Newbury anticipates receiving from that settlement by virtue of opting into that class action some time ago. Jenny and I had some questions about that, so we set up a remote meeting with the law firm that took place a few weeks ago, and they had been asking about this basically advanced disbursement option, whereby if the town opts into this, we would get our full amount in the nearer term minus an administrative fee, as opposed to getting disbursements over the course of about 9 years. And my initial reaction was not favorable. I did not think we should, opt into that. But once we talked it through with the attorneys and Jenny expressed her opinion that she felt we should do it. And once we talked it through, she had done the math on what the administrative fee is. And it doesn't apply to the whole 80,000. It applies to a subset. It amounts to a little over $800. So her feeling, and I came out of the remote meeting we had convinced and shared her opinion that we should take the advanced disbursement because the cost of about $800 on 80,000, as opposed to receiving these monies each of the next 9 years. As well as not being able to appropriate them. If we have money in the bank, you can put it on the, in the near term, you could put it to use. Whereas if you're getting it in dribs and drabs over, 9 years, it's just administratively more complex. Yeah,
First,
yeah, and then, well, why is the law firm offering it?
Yeah, why?
Probably because they're the ones who get the administrative fee, and while for us it's 800 and some odd dollars, when you look at all the class actions, I'm sure that for them. But the other thing, well, the other thing they said was that, I don't know how, if you get the advance disbursement, you're assured of the money. If you wait based on factors to do with the payer of the money and their solvency over, there's not actually an assurance that you'll actually get, because there could be business issues that,
Right, but could you get more?
I don't believe so, but if, I would want Jenny to be part of that, because she's done a lot more research on this than I have, so. I did allude to this earlier, but there are other anticipated settlements. This is with one of the PFAS firms. There are others, and on the meeting we had a couple of weeks ago, it seemed like there's another one that could be fairly imminent. So we do expect more money on this. One of the accounting questions that came up that we also had talked over with the attorneys was the state issued a advisory from Department of Revenue on how to handle these monies from an accounting standpoint. And basically there's two options. They can go right to general or right to free cash, or they can go to a dedicated account that then needs to be appropriated by town meeting. In either case, the funds have to be appropriated. They can't be used until they've gone through town meeting and appropriated. But they can either be put into free cash or set up in a dedicated account. There are no legal restrictions on the use of the funds. So basically they are free cash, even if they're in a dedicated account. So Jenny feels strongly that it would be better to put it in free cash rather than having yet another account to kind of track and so forth. So I totally agree with her recommendation on that as well. But I think that's really more of a finance department issue than a board issue, but I just want to make you aware that that's been part of our discussions.
Legally, that's 1%, or 4 or 5%, even just, so, yeah, the first year, so we left it open with on itself, and keep growing. What's a gift? No, I agree. I make that.
So I had to sign a letter of intent by, I think it was by June 30th or July 1st. I can't remember. There was like a deadline. That was a non-binding letter of intent. I did go ahead and sign that to preserve the town's option to take the advanced disbursement, but we haven't formally agreed to that. And I was clear with them that I didn't have that authority. So that will follow whatever the board votes tonight.
Some. Each for the,
Is it definitely 800? Or is it
Plus or minus, yeah, it's I think it was like 840 something. It's between $800 and $900, yeah.
Is that okay? Motion.
I would just say take lump sum net of administrative fee.
Second.
Aye.
Thank you.
Select board meeting minutes, June 12. Angus, on the learning tree discussion on item E, town manager updates, we need to make sure that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just I'm just gonna read it real quick. I'm fine with that. Yep. Oh, a meeting of the, yeah, and I would say instead of the authorities, a meeting of the Pentucket kind of, we call it our finance team. It's and just for your knowledge, it's
Yep.
myself and the town administrators at Grove and the Merrimack. We meet with the superintendent and the Pentucket business manager every month. So it's kind of an informal working group, but that's what's referenced there. So, not really the Pentucket authorities.
What? You waiting? Option 2. Page 3, D, item B. Action plan. It says the only method is to add it to the health protection plan. Should say one of 3 methods. In the last sentence, he still has it as Saint Anne. That's not a Canadian church. That's All Saints Church, right? It's not down by. No. Yeah. I would replace Saint Anne with All Saints Church. Right farm, the last sentence says that I asked for a list of potential members and attributes. To draft a committee charge. I think that's enough. Of this, let me see.
We wanted to mention the committee charge.
Yeah. The list of members and attributes was not to help draft the charge, maybe just say drawn up in addition to. Yeah.
Further, the charge.
Yeah. That.
Is there an expectation of a committee charge in addition to the bylaw? Because I think that,
Discuss
You put it
that.
on that. I saw that.
The idea was to give them some sense of direction
Mhm.
from the board, but
okay,
maybe you're right, it's bylaws.
it's probably worth looking at.
There's an old town hall in here a couple times over.
Yeah.
Actually, under E, the departmentization, it says it was decided to approach the matter. I would just say it's proposed, we decided.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, general discussion, item A is just feedback from the trust and then exercise. And considered, at a separate meeting, our public discussion. Here thought that really wasn't much for the town in this arrangement and also just the lack of details to know. So.
That's a question.
Sure.
Talks about this occupancy plan from the property might include up to 66 units of age restricted housing on one lot or division of the lot for separate units. Is he?
That's what he said. He didn't say that at our meeting, but he was saying he could have 2 40B.
He said at the select board meeting, it's almost like a threat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would qualify as a threat, but he did say one could be friendly and one not. Or 40B in a space. I just think in general, in our housing consult, firmness that typically developers have a little bit more definitive plans in mind before asking for support. But I think beyond that, the trust felt like, we're really focusing on Mullen and having that be exactly what we want and that's what ability. We're all waiting on this or suggesting the select board that's the part of it.
Well, we discussed it at the last meeting, it's the benefit to the town, of endorsing it, so.
The potential to have input. That's
Just the potential, there was no guarantee or reality of that, that's what's so surprising, yeah.
funding involved, still, so.
So I'm not looking for the board to take vote tonight, just. Discussion to. See, us.
You guys did vote, right?
We did. Thing, item B is discussion of the Coffin Street Trail.
Sure, yeah, I can speak to this. So, yeah, yeah, oh geez, I didn't realize it came through as, oh boy, oh. So, yeah, the Greenbelt would like to put a sign that like this at the Cortland Lane in proximity to the fencing. This would be 10-inch by 60-inch, similar to the signs they have at other properties. I think that's pretty straightforward, but wanted to make you all aware, make sure there weren't any concerns about that. I think this does tie into a separate discussion, which I don't think a decision is to be made tonight. It's really on for discussion. But that's Greenbelt has also expressed their intent to put what we're referring to as like a wayfinding sign, but a sign with a property map at the Coffin Street access point to the Coffin Street Conservation Land that would show trails on the property and a trail that they've been given permission from the current landowner to show on adjacent private property, but for which there is no easement and no legal right of public access. But the landowner has said they're amenable and agreeable to Greenbelt showing that on their kind of trail map. So we wanted to just raise for discussion initially tonight, and this can be on for a future meeting. I don't, in the years that we've been talking about the Cortland Lane access, I don't recall there's been any discussion of specifically, would there be like a wayfinding sign there? If so, where would it be? And if so, what would it show in terms of trails? So I did talk to Dave Rimmer earlier this week by phone, and this is certainly not an urgent issue by any means, but they would recommend some kind of wayfinding trail or sign be placed near the entrance to the property from the Cortland Lane access point. He said he didn't feel it would need to be, in their opinion, like close to the parking. It could be much further into the L. It could be even around the bend, but somewhere as you're approaching the access point to the Coffin Street property per se, that there'd be some kind of orientating map. And so I told him that's something I'd introduce for discussion with the board. And so that's something I probably does warrant a future meeting as more of an action item as to whether you want to do that. If so, where? And also, would you want on the sign you would commission to include that map on private property? Well, that's my opinion too. I agree. Yeah, I'd be very, I just don't think it's good practice to show, unless there's legal rights of public access. I don't think it should be. I think it is bad practice. Yeah, yeah. But Dave did say that, if in the future the town does want that kind of sign, they're happy to manufacture it and pay those costs. So.
But we show trail on the private lane.
Well, I think if we were, if they were doing it on our behalf, we were specific about that. I mean, they might be bent out of shape about it, but I don't think they're gonna print a sign that we don't want. But for their access, well, the Coffin Street access, that's a whole different discussion. As to, I mean, do you want to weigh in on and tell them you don't think they should be doing that on their sign on their land? This is a really complicated land deal, and there's parts that Greenbelt owns and part the town owns, but Greenbelt holds a CR on it. Very complicated. I can tell you, it's very complicated, exceedingly complicated.
So where this large sign apparently.
On the Coffin Street one?
Yeah, no, on Portland Lane, go right on the parking area.
Oh, the large sign, that the 10 by 60, he had suggested it would be, he thought it should be clearly visible to people driving up Cortland Lane. So So the parking is now, roughly here. So he was saying like kind of right next to the fencing. So it's something that as people are driving up, they can, yeah, yeah. Which seemed to make sense to me too.
And somebody heading near the delivered text, not when you just scrambling and finding them.
Mhm.
See.
So do you have a concern about allowing them to put it there?
And I just think somebody's gonna go there to park and they already know it's there. A lot of those are driving by and, oh, okay, this one's not gonna be the case.
All right, so we just want feedback on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess, this idea of the other sign, both the Greenbelt one that they intend to put in, as well as whether the town might want its own wayfinding sign, we'll call it. Like right around here. You could, yeah,
Either that or like a corner of Al.
Right.
I just don't want to put
no, I totally agree, yeah.
don't want.
Yeah, I think putting something around here would kind of draw people in, and it would also kind of reinforce that the public property is not here. They shouldn't be, at that point, you'd want them headed south and not.
We should have. That was something discussed very early on and promised to the others. Greenbelt has signs that say.
Okay.
Private property beyond the boundary or something like that.
Okay,
Space on.
all right.
Farm.
All right, I'll talk to David about that.
So, Ross, what do you think about that? Private property, trails and private property should be that, should not do it. People.
I can provide a little bit of background on this. So within the town's GIS, there's a trails layer, and actually it looks like it's turned on. Let me just make sure. Or maybe I guess maybe it's part of the base layer. Oh no, here, trails, yeah, that toggles on and off. So a couple of years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, my office was approached by a property owner that the town trails layer went across their property. And they approached my office and said, that's not a public trail. There's no easement there. So within days, we had it removed. We went to MVPC. We said, this shouldn't be on the town's trails layer because it's not, in fact, a public trail. And that got me curious as to where did this layer come from? Because a lot of this GIS data far predates my time or the kind of current staff. So we had no knowledge of where did all these trails come from. So I asked Christian, who in addition to being chief assessor is our GIS coordinator, to basically cross-reference anywhere that the trails layer intersects private property, and then to do deed research to see, is there in fact a recorded easement providing for public access to that trail or not? And that if he finds instances where there is something shown on our map, but there's no legal rights of public access, we should not be showing those on a public map as being a trail. So he personally vetted all of that. He did like an intersect with GIS, and then he actually went out and walked, and we made a number of adjustments to the trails layer. In some cases, they were kind of marginally crossing the line, but he would relocate. He went out there with GPS to basically proof the trails layer and make sure that it's all either on public property or on land for which there is, in fact, public rights. That was 3 or 4 years ago, might have been longer. but we did make a real effort to kind of proof that. But that's so in principle, like I don't think we should be showing a trail unless there's actually public rights. So
Some conservation maps have a private trail on there and they own it, or said about it. It's just that they remove it.
yeah, it's part of the funding application. That's right. Going back to the CPA funding application, and well, in full disclosure, it was this property owner that approached me. So this is kind of what brought it to my attention in the first place. Was it this one or was it this one? It was one of these property. I can't remember exactly, but that's what kind of brought it to my attention, and we basically, you know, tried to fix it, and we did fix it. But yeah, then a year and a half later, when this land came through for public acquisition, the CPA funding application still showed this trail, and we made them remove it within the CPA application. But there's this disconnect between Greenbelt's trails map and the town's trails map.
Well, here's it here.
It does appear that way. It certainly does appear that way. Yeah.
I don't think it's a huge garage. They just fence a house. The person sells the land, instead of change the line.
It's almost like you're saying you're allowed to go on. What would occur or happen, that town sort of endorsed it, there is no approval, so I would never, it's risky. The one you're mentioning, that Ann's Trail, whatever it's called, I walked it, they got a big granite post with a sign, and it looks like it's part of Sawmill Brook, and I'm walking, I'm going, this can't be Sawmill Brook. It's actually next trail something, so I'll go to people with this.
You have to have permission from Ann. All right.
Great. Nope.
Next item, in with trails, is the books framework for town property. So this is just to try to address the ongoing question of who's responsible for maintaining the trails. Right now, we have some private organizations who don't have town permission. I mean, it's great that they take trees down and stuff, but it's kind of insurance. So this is something that I discussed with the chair of the Conservation Commission and a viable approach, because we are the two owners. Wow. So, looking for feedback on this, if you find it's good, I'll circulate it to open space committee.
Look at it, but not with a hard look at the trend. We do need it because not only really things studying the trail differently than this, so that's
Right, well,
well, and that's one thing. It says maintenance occurred in wetlands area conservation commission must be looked at. Who determines it? So wetland survey first.
but I think what you do. I really like the idea of him being on the election. Because he can use TPW, room, he can use firefighters, to go and which he did.
Well, I think that's the way to start. You
Yeah.
have to have everything going to one focal point, then
Yeah.
back out. If certain groups are gonna volunteer, they should be at the direction of the board, so this guys or whatever.
Right.
That's fine.
And we need waivers for that on file.
But if this board with insurance, that's how they did that. The other thing, just as a comment, I think, if we care about saying the town hall, the town hall, we list the trail property smaller, just say Mullen Place to. Simply because we have the other Mullen, KVK, everybody's talking about. Just to avoid confusion.
Yeah, that's
Right, there's only one.
On this list,
Yeah,
I would call it Mullen and Pike Stage, so that a novice or uneducated person does not know that we're not talking.
you mean done,
Yeah.
Sorry, that.
yeah,
Done it.
yeah, do you, Chris, do you know whether it's conservation?
Oh, I have no idea what it's supposed to be honest.
Conservation commission.
one thing I didn't put in the packet because I didn't want to inundate it. And honestly, I haven't even looked at the materials other than a glance at it. But Wendy, right around when she sent this email, sent a separate email to Concom with, I think, 7 or 8 documents attached that had everything from the Mill Pond Management Plan, the Wetlands Corridor Maintenance Plan that had been approved by Concom, I think in 2018. There's a River Bend Land Management Plan at the Sawmill Brook. Yeah, but the actual document. So I can send that around. So I didn't want to, I mean, that would have added 120 pages to this packet, and I wasn't prepared to talk about it, so I didn't want to like. Yeah, but one thing that's interesting is until 2 weeks ago, neither I nor Butch nor anyone else on staff even knew there was a riverbend management plan. Like there's, nor did the Concom. So there's a lot of stuff that's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that anyone knew about, and it's not a recorded document. It's not like part of the registry of deeds. And there might be others. Yeah. So I think that's part of why I'm personally very favorable to what Wendy's trying to do here of try to have a cohesive, because there's so many loose ends. And so I'll send that around and it'll help everyone understand kind of the enormity of what's going on here. But yeah, there's plans that are in a file cabinet somewhere that until recently we didn't even know existed and still haven't processed or like absorbed. So it's it's a big challenge.
So are you generally in favor of those? So I'll start the date together, just parties and then bring it back.
And I did share this with Butch, and he and I both think it's a great initiative. We both see it as really fundamentally just opening lines of communication and reinforcing that he is the highway superintendent and tree warden really needs to be aware. There was an instance just a few weeks ago of trail work happening on a town property by a well-meaning third party where we didn't know about it till after the work was done, and that's just not a good look. It's yeah. Butch learned about it from the tree vendor that they'd done work on town property like after the work was done, and it was only because Butch had contacted them on a different need he had for tree removal. Like that's not how it should go. And the bill was paid by a third party, and thank you to them for that. But Butch needs to be aware of this stuff before the work happens. So.
Okay.
So.
So basically went over what we decided today. Next steps, those 3 sites are going to need the approval. We would like to have a public meeting just to talk about the process that we follow. I've got resident input on. There's a matrix of all the sites and how we lay them down. It seems to me that that's something the select board should run, but I wanted to combine as such. And given that the working group was appointed by the select board for I'm gonna do the work either way.
I don't know. No, but I think they have to be participants.
Well, they would be participants, but I just don't know if it should be select board meeting.
So the date that was talked about earlier tonight at the working group meeting was July 31st. So I guess the first question would be, is that a date that's would be an off week for a Thursday night? So is that a date that's available to the board members? That's not set in stone. Is that an available date? So Wendy, what do you think about maybe, I mean, I agree it would be great for the select board to host the meeting, but I also think, you all need to know, you need to know all that information too, because you haven't been at the meeting. So maybe at the meeting on the 24th, the board meeting, kind of that information is all assembled, and that way the board has a chance to kick the tires before kind of the dedicated meeting the following Thursday. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Any questions on the process? Talk about it. Okay, special event permit application update. So that email went out separately. Just trying to get a handle on this. It's continual basketball for staff, for us. Just wondering whether we should
I'd like to read them. That will state in context to give you some operational responsibilities. Set up the criteria, you should provide criteria, what should be on the form, she can fill in. And by staff.
Angus, did you think any more about whether or why the select board has been responsible?
Well, I think a lot of this goes back to the kind of old form of government where the board was the chief administrative officer and just about every last thing went before the board. I think we've obviously had a lot of turnover and a lot of people in different positions. And I think one thing, I do feel the board in the present provides a very, very valuable backstop in the event things are, there's details that might not have been fully considered or, because a lot of staff, myself included, we're not town residents. We haven't lived here 40 years and we might not think of some of the things you guys might think of. So I think you provide a valuable backstop. I think if what Chris said, if the criteria can be really carefully defined so that me and staff know exactly what to look for, and then we're simply proofing, and able to, and yeah, it's all meets it. I'd like to get to a point where it doesn't get to the board. I don't think we're there yet. I think we could be there for calendar year 2026. But I told Wendy I would hate to have, the board not part of it, and then there's some debacle, and then it becomes an after the fact, well, how did that happen? In a way, I'd rather have the board have the chance to kind of ask the questions and have it go through the process so that at least it's like a team effort. But I think if between now and kind of over the next remainder of this calendar year, if we can get it all tightened up and get it to where those staff who have a role in this, including the facilities piece and the coordination of events, the communications piece, which implicates my office and the clerk's office, advanced notification, those kinds of things through the website, making sure if there's expectations of signage that Butch knows about that and he's fully looped in. Obviously, Chief Dwyer has a really important role in this, and I'd like to, better understand kind of exactly how that works in the public safety building, exactly how that works. So I think if we can all get to where we're operating as a well-oiled machine, I think it'd be great to get to where it's not going to the board. But right now, I will say these special event permits are typically one of 200 things we're doing on any given workday, and they're not at the top of the list. So I think in that context, it's helpful to have the board as the backstop. But I'd be totally supportive of getting to a point that's not necessary. I don't think we're there yet. We haven't even had a single conversation. I mean, granted, you've only been in the job 9 days,
Me and
but
Max have talked about it a lot, about special events and permit. I've heard a lot about it, but I just wanted to offer some insight in the way that they do it in Amesbury. We have a special events committee and it's comprised of employees. So it's police, DPW, public safety. And if police can't be there, it's usually the police admin, the fire admin, and the council does not sign off on any of them. So what happens is if anybody applies for a special event or something, weren't we discussing, somebody called about a wedding and they were going to have a lot of cars parking, and that's something that would come before us. So if they apply, there's a meeting every single month during the day, and anybody that is applying has to come and sit in front of police, fire, DPW, whether it's Amesbury Days and it's a road race or it's a wedding in someone's yard that is going to have 100 people on the road. They come and they have their application and they explain and they answer all of their questions to the employees, the staff, and then they kind of make their decision so that they can just approve it. Or if it's not, they haven't gotten everything, they haven't got their answers answered, the questions answered, they'll have them come back next month. So if it's a big event in August, they'll come before them in June and work out all the kinks, and then the application just goes out and you guys don't have to be involved unless you want to. You can be provided everything. And
it should be a check the box kind of thing, right? We've gotten to the point to look for signage and porta potties and conflicts on the same date.
Yeah.
But once that list is fully developed, it should be checked off, and insurance certificate verified, through the date which it's valid.
There's a lot of internal, I was working with Max to revise the form and there's the health, the police, the fire. So there's a lot of interdepartmental, so I like that idea, because then everybody's at the table. Typically Max chasing case sheet. Email after email saying, is this okay? And you get a one-word response that says yes, which not really cool. So I do see some.
I guess my concern, I've been here 7 years and I think you guys know I'm a very collaborative manager. I really like getting people working together. We don't have time to have those meetings. And I say that as someone who really values interdepartmental collaboration. Like we have, we've gotten these land use huddles off the ground in the last couple of years. That's been terrific. But there's multiple other staff working groups that we haven't had the bandwidth to even get up and running. And I'd like to, and I met with Amanda early, I think on your first or second day, about this public services working group, which I know I've talked with you guys about, that would include a lot of these, if not all of these entities: clerk's office, my office, public safety, health, council on aging. So I think that would be a good vehicle for this, but that's not up and running yet. I think it could, and I've talked to Amanda about, and I haven't kind of, freed her up to run with it.
Yes.
So I want to be clear on that. But I want to tee that up and kind of position her office to kind of coordinate that services working group, just like Christine Wallace has coordinated the land service. Because the only reason that's worked is because there's someone other than me setting an agenda, making it happen, because the bandwidth issues are incredible.
I think Max would totally, so the committee would only need to meet if there were applications. So if there were no special applications from them, I think Max totally spearhead that, and he'd probably spend the same amount doing the meeting that he does emailing and chasing people around
And then responding to our questions.
Yeah, and
Well, and the idea of this kind of work group is also that it would be the go-to place for some of the other things, like the parade or the tree lighting in November, or these kinds of community events. So that's something I think that if we keep going how we're going with developing that working group and continuing to get real clarity, which I think you guys have provided. But right now there's almost too much information. You know that as well as I do now, because you've seen the work product. It's pretty complicated.
So I don't want to continue having applications here in this.
Do you want to delegate it to Chris? You want to turn just to formulate because you did a bunch of work on the upfront months ago, 6 months ago. Yeah. But then there was a disconnect. There was a disconnect because when Max started working on it, when Jim left, he didn't start from where Jim left it. He started. And so now there's two versions. It's a little bit chaotic right now. Is that fair? So I think if you guys can articulate your expectations, and I can, work with Amanda and staff to get this kind of working group up and running, I think a couple of months from now, we could be in a position where we basically, you pass the reins. I just don't want it to happen too soon, because I do think it's just difficult with all the things we're dealing with. If I'm putting together a meeting with all the other senior staff who are super busy and I'm super busy, like dealing with a special event permit isn't what we're meeting about. We're meeting because there's like real. Well, that would, honestly, that would be I'm not serious about that, because you kind of have to, but it's a service we provide that we are really not equipped to provide.
I've often wondered about that.
Yeah, like.
When do you say no? Could you?
I think it's not a good look. If the community thinks we can't accommodate a road race, like, it reflects very poorly on us, but.
By the way, the vast majority of road races, be it bike or running, originate in Newbury and come through the town. They're not specific to West Newbury.
Yeah.
So that's you're accommodating these profit-making ventures.
So.
That is too.
Oh, totally different, yeah.
But we do it in like it's like we're doing the stuff under duress, because it's just one of a million things we're doing. So
Again, it should be a check the box.
Yeah.
Police chief done, he should have his own form and attaches to it. And if he says, yes, you need 3 officers, fine. He says, can't do it this date, that's, you know, each
Yeah.
of those ought to be just a tick right off, insurance certificate, that, who's in charge and, you know, whatever, signage, which I got a slight beat, one race we had recently. They put little sticky signs on the streets for direction, they're still getting run off by vehicles.
Really?
Up around the reservoir, yeah, I've been out there in the past week.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of
So we
that.
need to have a follow-up on some of these things. There's a race last fall, where they closed down roads when they shouldn't have. But as part of the process, there should be a follow-up or forensic for any issues. Better in the future.
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't kidding. Because you're doing so much right now, if you kind of transfer to Chris
I didn't
and,
see you volunteering.
well,
Like this.
but he cares deeply about this. He's got it clear in his head. Well, you seem to. And you've got it clear in your head. I think if you articulate what the expectations are, we have some time to kind of get better organized, which Amanda's going to be a huge help in that. I promise you that. Then I think you know, we're not far off, but there is some work to be done.
Before I say yes, have Max dig out the information I gave to Jim before.
Oh, I have it.
And we can
Yeah.
start with that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I asked. I mean, one of the other things is what was presented to me didn't show red lines. It was an updated draft, but it didn't show red lines. So I couldn't focus on what had changed, which was not reasonable because I don't have time to read things. And that's when I
think I gave
There-
Max actually, well,
You did.
So what I would like to have happen is to take the two versions that Jim was working on, that Max was working on, do a compare and merge so that we have a single document. But that was where, like, I just don't have the bandwidth to,
It's too complex.
yes. Yeah, exactly. This should be boiled down quite a bit. Take the facility use policy. That used to be 4 pages. It took a couple of cycles, but we got that boiled down to 1 page, very clear, and it's worked a lot better since. So we just need to have this put through the same kind of filter. And I do think you can be very helpful in this.
Would the board allow Max and I to take a stab at a special events policy or a bylaw in a form and just let us work on it for a couple weeks and meet with you and just sit, and then you can give us all your feedback and you don't have to.
oh, no, we want to go that.
But no, just we can just give you a couple options, bring you some ideas. I can bring other information that I have, and then if you don't, just tell us what you don't like about it. We'll work with Angus and Max will spend this project. All right, so
All right, but
we'll do that.
brevity-
And then Chris doesn't have to
Do
do.
need brevity because the current form is, it has all the policy, legal stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
that can probably be attached to the application. I would just like the application to be a checklist. with
yeah.
the Forms like this.
Yep.
Instead of an email from the police chief, I want the form to see that he's reviewed it and signed it.
And just to let you know, there is, and it costs money, but OpenGov. Is that OpenGov? What am I thinking?
There we go.
No, not ClearGov. It's OpenGov. That's the other one. So we use that in Amesbury and a lot of other places use it. It's for online permitting, for zoning, planning, all that stuff.
We use Permit Link for,
And this
Sure.
one is used by a lot of municipalities. It's one of the most popular ones, and they do special events in there. So if someone applies for a special event, police goes in, checks off they're good,
I like that.
buy or check. Well, you won't like the invoice, but it is very helpful, and it will take all the staff that's sending emails and Max chasing people for signatures over time. That adds up in the
It
time lost.
Rough
that we
dollars,
could-
what does it cost?
Oh, gosh.
well, it'd be different for Amesbury because I'm sure it's priced
You're
based on.
talking
but
100,000 or 10,000?
we can look into it, yeah.
In between, I will get your numbers.
Yep.
Yeah,
I wonder if
soon.
we can have an add-ons.
Yeah.
We looked at.
Or to MyRec, but Amesbury uses MyRec. It does.
Yeah, it doesn't do
Okay.
that. Cassandra spent a lot of time researching OpenGov, and they're always at MMA. They're like the main.
Yeah.
Well,
We can get some numbers on that.
Sounds like what we're just talking about, having staff develop.
Right.
Sorry, that-
Exactly. Most places just don't get certain things because it costs money.
So
but-
how about maybe 2 meetings from now, the first meeting in August, Amanda kind of presents some options and that gives us, cause I'm out next week and that, I don't want to try to move too quickly because
And
I'd
I'd
rather
rather
just-
speak too.
oh, yes, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Good. All right, good. Thank you.
Question. You mentioned in Kingsbury had a wedding company probably like 100 people. You had to get a permit for that on private property?
Because all the parking was on the road.
Oh,
Well, this very issue came up earlier this week. A person stopped in, was talking to Max at the desk. They were gonna have a wedding, 150 people, parking on multiple public streets. And I was just at my desk working and I overheard the conversation. And Max was saying, oh, you should check with Sam on, because there's gonna be a big tent. You should check with Paul on food, but there's no special event permit. I jumped right on my seat and when I said, I don't know if this triggers special event permit or not, because if you're talking parking, 150 people, how many cars? One of the roads, is Church Street, major route. So I said, whoa, 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 we need a lot more detail to know if there's a special event permit needed. But the advice that was going to be given was no. And I'm like, whoa, like that's where these things are,
did you say they have to talk to Board of Health too,
for food.
on a private event?
Well, that's what Max said.
I
Essentially,
violate
that's a special event, right? Police.
every event, I violate every policy in the world, we had a wedding.
So, but I guess the reason I bring that up is there's sufficient ambiguity in these things that you might go to multiple offices or multiple people within the same office and get a different answer. Because I'm not saying there is a special event for that. I'm just saying we need more than a brief 90-second conversation at the counter.
Parking is one home.
Right.
The food, I don't know whether the town has any right to tell you what to do.
Well, if you were a business, you have to have, a license to serve food.
It'd be like a food truck maybe? And
I
like a
just
food-
don't
It
know.
might be like a food truck coming in. I don't think it's all types of things and it could be a weird
Yeah.
general law.
Interesting.
But when you read that special event definition of what is a special event, if you read it literally, it's quite broad,
Anything that impacts residents.
including public roadways. So if you're dealing with potentially 50 or 70 cars parked on a public road and there's no formal notice, and then one day, like all these cars are parked and police didn't know it was going to happen. Yeah, that's something where we have egg on our face. Like, so these things, and we're not in the, even though we are in the business of doing these, it's not something we have full-time effort to make sure these things go smoothly. So
I
that's,
just wonder about the large event, we think that alcohol, do you need a, at least we thought about hiring just to approve it from it. I can see the potential for issues.
yep.
1 day liquor license or like people could be serving liquor on their property and nobody knows about it.
Mhm.
That way you're finding out about liquor licensing and getting a fee for that. So you uncover revenue that you can.
All right, you have a plan.
No, I think it says in that policy, if they're selling liquor, that's the deal, that's why. It's another event town.
Near
I
North.
wasn't gonna mention anything so nobody gets in trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's sold, you have to have police,
Yeah, and that has gone as a special event permit.
right? There's another one.
Yep, yep.
Weddings and plans.
All right, update the end of year tech.
Chris, you wanna take a crack at this one? I mean, I guess I'll start just this idea of getting a school building committee is gotta become a front burner issue for this board as the appointing authority.
Yeah, but they're not gonna take somebody from every community, right?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, they're not gonna, like, fill the 14 designated.
They will, without the committee, probably about 20 people. So they're comfortable with whoever we send, even though it has to be approved by the school committee, so could they reject them, but we don't think so. If
Does
Chris
it
hasn't
just
been-
have Kevin do it?
Well, I don't know, first of all, you have to talk to Kevin,
Yeah.
and they did say that could be one of your options.
Yeah.
But you and I mentioned somebody last meeting, and that would be good, and I thought a third person would be exceptional. Maybe like a local architect to design schools. Maybe we might design high school. Would be a very good person.
Yeah.
A local engineer, maybe. So we probably ought to put a call out. That was just that.
Yeah, so that was what I thought might come out of tonight's meeting, was to put out a call through the website. And then 2 weeks from tonight to really have that as an agended item, to really, for you as a board, to really think about what criteria, and, I would think you'd want someone with significant standing in the community, with ideally a longstanding record of public visibility, whether that's public service or, but because this is going to be a huge project. So you know,
It's bigger than just a building committee, it's the ability to sell it to the community.
yeah,
So you need to have construction knowledge, hopefully, architectural knowledge, engineering skills. It's bigger than that. The
So
other,
do we want to put out a call, or do we want to just reach out to people?
well, both. Put up the call, but also target certain people.
or you could do targeted outreach in the next 2 weeks, and then on the 24th, if you decide at that point to do a broader call, you could do that. I mean, it's really however you want to handle it.
Yeah, given that there's such a specific set of criteria for this person, I feel like we'd be better off identifying.
Okay, so I don't know, 30 of us and Vegas has any people that think we should file a list of people we think we ought to entertain talking to, and we can discuss that before we can.
And it's certainly going to need to be someone who's prepared to invest significant time
That's what I
over the
think,
course of many years, not just a
4
year.
years.
Yeah, like several years. Yeah.
I checked out.
That'd be a good way to go forward. All right, so we're gonna take that up at the next meeting then. Just think of people.
The thing that frustrated me is that which they started with the membership, but then they started on the focus of how big do they want to make the project? How many students to accommodate? 480, but they currently have a lot of excess capacity for students that would like to get in. But they just started talking about 1,500. They started going down that rabbit hole, which drove me nuts about 1,500. What that does is it costs you money. And the regional agreement doesn't get revised. So they got the cart before the horse again. And I raised my hand and said, you guys have to realize, without changing the regional agreement, increasing the population and the construction costs are dead on arrival. So they sort of seem to think, well, we'll decide the number first and then we'll get to the regional agreement. No. And I think with Raleigh and in Newbury supported on it says that, the Raleigh, they said, you don't change this agreement, there is nothing happening.
That we see, or we're
Well,
gonna.
that's what we thought, they sort of. Because any increase in enrollment has significant cost consequences. I mean, even if you stay at the same, there is, but I think that's more agreeable to start sitting there and say to a community, you might not get more kids to the school, your cost is gonna go up.
Right.
Significantly, it's kind of silly, so I was very surprised that they went down that path. And Lane, who's president of Northern Essex, said, well, we pursue both paths at the same time, so we'll see. That's just my concern, is that I get so far down this path again. And we're gonna be stuck with the same old rates.
Yeah, and other points, I'm looking back at my notes from yesterday's meeting, there was, I thought, some very thoughtful discussion of demographics, aging communities, aging region, declining school enrollment, and the potential implications of a larger Whittier on the viability of other public school districts.
Yeah, that was.
I thought that was
Sort
very,
of like Georgetown was one, if you allow more kids to Whittier, it drains the funds and the students out of their district. So
We got less
very careful of that.
So
yeah,
when you have less students, you get, if our attrition, they're going over to Whittier, we're gonna get less chapter 70 money. And you're gonna pay the same heat and the same.
Mayor of Amesbury said that the last building project, like Amesbury is right in the sweet spot of the cost per student, number of students in Amesbury was. Whereas Newbury Port, that had very disproportionate, that cost, per student construction project was like 4 or 5 times what most towns were. We had a little bit high. Newbury was like right in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, what happens if you build the 25% more capacity? Kids will go, because they have a wait list that is that long. So,
A couple of other things, these are both comments that Maureen Lynch offered. One was that once the project is through the feasibility period, that there can be 2 alternate numbers in terms of design capacity on the table before a decision is made. But she also said that you cannot move forward with a schematic design until the regional agreement is rewritten. That was one of the terms of the MSBA approval or the MSBA process. So yeah, the regional agreement's got to get to the front burner sooner than later. And it's not exactly clear how that's going to happen.
that's a massive project. I mean, I don't think they understand that. April's got one perspective, we've got another, Newburyport's got, they're all protecting their own interests, and April has, obviously the best financial way economy is written, so. Yeah, I just wonder where that's gonna end up at that point.
So who will take leadership on that? Will he just work the group or? Like
The
some.
fact that it was ignored at this meeting, I guess, was kind of
Yeah.
frustrating to me.
That's, it's not the script. It's maybe.
Well, the representative, one of the representatives from Rowley, it seemed like they had maybe 3 people there. They had a number of
That's
people
what I
there.
thought.
Yeah. But one of the people was very adamant that, they were very agitated about the acceptance rate and the number of people on the wait list, and saying that they felt it would be a dead on arrival to try to bring a future capital project to their voters when there were so many of their applicants who were not accepted. And so, it wasn't clear to me whether they were saying like a bigger school so there could be greater acceptance rate, but obviously the cost implications of a larger school.
And
I didn't really follow, but the way that person said it, the way it was, basically they were saying it was almost like absolutely necessary to have basically any of the kids who want to go from Rowley would want to be able to go in order to get the support. And as we know, under the regional agreement, it's got to be unanimous support to amend it. So the prospect of potentially one community digging its heels, and another thing that was talked about at length, which I really didn't follow, but Rebecca's done a little more research. I haven't had time to look at what she printed out for me, but apparently the process for lotteries has been completely revised by DESI in the last couple of months.
it was mandated last year, because
Okay,
the regional schools were cherry picking kids couldn't get in.
okay,
So now it's gonna be just a lottery. But the implication, if they apply, was that it's gonna be a lottery with all the names who wanna go for Whittier, all just to live the program in. And as they said, then it becomes an April school, because April has 90% applicants, so, as right now, certain towns get allocations. So you could be paying tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars to send kids to Whittier, keep going. Based on, the state hasn't released the program on how the lottery works yet. They're supposed to have done it at the beginning of July, but they're still sitting. So that's gonna be another. That in the middle of this is really convoluted.
really convoluted.
So we're not revising the agreement. We're.
A new agreement, correct.
Right, so that's still unanimous. Can that be?
Oh, that could,
One of the things that goes.
Okay.
yeah, no, yeah, no, that's, yeah.
It's all new. Particularly on massive schemes, because of the dynamics of how.
So definitely for this school building committee, you need someone with a genius level intellect.
For the stubbornness of.
It's very complicated.
Wow. All right. Anything else? You following us?
Yeah, I mean, our next meeting's coming up, what, that first week of August, I think? He just sent out the invite. Like this is gonna be,
You know,
Oh.
I get the emails, I don't get the invites, so I keep the old email.
okay, let me get this, just while I'm thinking of it, cause I don't want another snafu here.
And they don't ask for meeting, they just say, here are the dates. So I can't make this another one. That's guy. Sorry.
It's pretty good, but I don't want to forget.
Or,
Yeah.
oh, great, okay.
Yeah, Ross and I gets nuts. Ross has been after me to sign. His process. Sending me emails, please sign the permits, and I keep forgetting.
Wednesday, August 13th at 10 a.m. You have that on your calendar? It was in the, okay, good. That was in the email that I think I forwarded yesterday or today from Phil at College Arrow.
I don't get the calendar invites, I had the email from a while ago. They can keep trying to shut me
All
down.
right, yeah, no, I got the calendar invite, yeah.
I was sitting next to Carol McLeod yesterday, and she said something about it, I said, I don't get that. She said, really, I showed an email, that's it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Alright, you good with it here?
Yep.
Are we done? Okay.
Done.
Alright. The next item is recap our whole thing.
Actually, if we can just wait a minute, I want to make sure Amanda's here for all of this because we haven't had much time to talk over other than some things that were kind of immediate for her office. So I want to make sure she's aware of the process we went through.
Then you don't like the way I happy to see. What? There's no block and stone on most of these.
I just averaged. No, I know, I did.
So every time it was a close time.
That is not true. It's not.
I thought it was
No, it was a very detailed numeric system. So, I also did a sort based on time frame. If I email it. Well, I guess we don't need to. Just curious to see how many projects.
That's sort of, I tried to back a lot of them off for the time frame, we prioritize more either. I understand it, but if there's not time to accommodate it, that's why I'm much more gracious.
Gracious,
So that's
that's not a word I keep switching.
I'm still gracious.
So any comment?
The only things I said, when it's on the floor, because I delivered to someone, we'll throw it out, and I understand why you, pick one of the regional stations, stuff. Yeah, I put it up with a.
Right, no.
It's the top one. Yeah.
It was alluded to. Yeah, I put it,
Yeah, I thought you said that was one of our top priorities.
it is, but like, does it have to start today? No, but,
Yeah,
so you can move it forward, is what I'm saying, if you wanted to modify it. Where I had, I sort of. Had a little further out, and understanding of certain things that you could get going right now.
yes, I mean, this was.
Well, that's a concept of,
Ross.
well, that's some regionalization, are we talking, which,
Dispatch.
dispatch, water, was for the overall concept of regionalization. I don't,
Okay, I interpreted dispatch.
that would be different, so you need
Okay.
look at the subject that have different implications.
The other ones that.
On that, less than, less.
I mean, we're pretty close on most of them.
Well,
There's one that.
historical materials. On another
Yeah,
one.
that's just because I,
Right, and to me, it's like, it's an agitation, people are trying to stir up, so if you want to bring it forward, I have no problem with that.
no, it's not that, it's that people are acting as if it's
Mhm.
current and
I understand.
asserting, asserting certain rights.
I read it, the start, but it's like, how much do you want
100%.
to move it forward?
Well, and the fact is, yeah, the fact is that, that's low remaining effort. It was submitted to council with all the backup. Obviously, I'm sure it's not been the top thing on Sharon's desk, but she will get to it. She always does. So I think that the kind of the work to just write it up and send it to her was not a lot of work. And then at some point she'll get her opinion back, and that'll pretty much tie that
I
up.
just didn't want
Yeah.
to disregard it because I put it out. I understand it, but to me, it's like just the little fly that keeps buzzing around your head, you know?
Yes.
So if you want, take it in the time frame you prefer, how's that?
Yeah, it's in motion, and when we get a response back, hopefully it'll just tie it up and we won't have to spend any
know
more
where it's
time.
going.
I have my theories, but I'm not a lawyer,
You scared yourself, didn't you? Anything like hers, huh?
All right, any other?
I mean, a couple of questions I had, I noticed that two things were on for immediate, which I take as an indicator of a fall town meeting. One of those is the capital bylaw, the other is the harbor bylaw. Uh, 3 and 13.
Who's already read one?
No, I'm looking at what's, this is what you sent out, Wendy, right? This one here? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's stalled out, right?
No.
Well, it's red in my index because there are things that are kind of stalled in my view. So when I saw those were both kind of prioritized for near term, I have a hard time. I just know what's going to be involved, especially with the first one of these. I think the second one isn't.
Yeah, they're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were only prioritizing the yellow ones on the sheet.
So if it's in black, oh, yeah, that's something you decided at the last meeting.
Would be a near term.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm concerned about that because we got a heavy, even if there was nothing other than MBTA on the fall town meeting, and there is other stuff, but there's bandwidth issues. And so the idea of bringing forward capital bylaw with dramatic changes for the fall town meeting, that will implicate dozens of hours of my time between now and mid-September. Is that an emergency? So I did bring it up at FinCom the other night. I talked and I met with Dennis ahead of time to kind of brief him on it because I knew the FinCom meeting would be pretty constrained because Dan could only be on for 15 minutes. I mean, it was a very constrained. The meeting went on longer, but they only had the full 3 members for 15 minutes. So I met with Dennis earlier in the day to kind of go through it with him and to ask, would he be, would the FinCom be having another meeting later this summer? And basically he said, if the select board has a proposal it wants the FinCom to consider, he would post a meeting for that. But he didn't feel he, knew enough about it or had enough background. And with that committee being very much in flux, he said, look, if there's a proposal, they'll meet to respond to it. But that shifts the, and they weren't going to lead on this anyway, but I just.
Budget. That can be changed, but that does.
Yeah. I just think about the amount of time that's going to implicate, and especially time on a near-term time horizon as opposed to the time it would take to go through another cycle with the current structure. Takes time, but that's over the course of 9 or 10 months instead of 10 to 12 weeks. And I just worry about potentially stirring up something that I see becoming highly politicized. And
So
therefore,
we
you know,
could get somebody to grab this for us. Broadly.
if Rob's willing to put some work into it, it's still, the time I'm thinking of isn't so much the drafting as the meetings and the back and forth. Yeah. Harbor, I don't think would be a politicized issue. I think there's broad support for the idea. That's more a matter of the time to actually redraft that bylaw, which is quite lengthy. The harbor regulations are quite lengthy and have not been touched since the late 90s. So they're very stale. And that's going to be more time to actually like conceptualize that and draft it. And I would also question, is that something that really needs to happen for a fall town meeting?
No, that's pretty. I had started advising that.
Okay.
If we, I would prefer to have a CAC file. But, that doesn't really have a big.
Correct. Yeah, we've got that all very well. It's running very well. So I was focused more on like the timing. I wasn't as focused on the colors. Sorry about that. But the
I went in totally different. The yellow disregarded the others because we'd already been there.
oh, okay. Well, so I guess just while I'm at it, the number 35, I don't know that we really, I think we're in good shape with the street acceptance. We did not find, Chris, I have had both Rebecca and Jen Geary look through the various files. They didn't find what you referenced, but there are a couple of council opinions from that era that maybe, I don't know if those were but from 2000, 2001. Yeah, so they're council memos, but it's all defined by state law. There's the KP guide that's very clear. It's pretty succinct. When Wendy and I met with Mike Crow a week or so ago to walk through the process for Major Boyd, I thought that was totally adequate to give him that guide and say, we're going to be following this checklist. And that's the same direction I would give staff who have a role in it. The clerk's office has a role, Butch has a role, planning would have a role. We would just follow that checklist. So I don't think that we need a locally adopted street acceptance procedure.
Well,
It's boilerplate. It's the same in every city and town. So I would feel comfortable just deleting that from the list altogether, because I don't really think there's a problem to be solved.
I have a question on street light on 23. I mean, last time we had talked about public participation process, and I feel like that will put for.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, driving home the other night and just looking at the streetlights. I had the same thought. I said, you know what? I think I'm probably fine just to have National Grid do what it's going to do. And yeah, because I think it's like, yeah, I'd be totally on board with that. And if, yeah, I mean, I think if that's the case, would there be any concern about me just letting Chip know that he can kind of run with that and just keep us surprised?
it'd be a courtesy to put out a notice to residents that it's going to be occurring, so nobody's surprised.
But on a town-wide basis, not on like an
Right,
abutter
but we'll
mailing.
give them Feedback, we
Yeah.
don't just say, heads up.
Yeah.
To get changed, might look a little different at first, everybody else has got them. Cost saving, because that's efficient, or just.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
Good.
The multi-year budget forecasting tool, it's number 54, but there's a different one at number 2. Are those the same thing, or are they different?
Let me see. It might be just it might be in there twice by accident. Yeah, they're both the exact same thing.
That's why I wondered.
Oh, this looks to me to be an error. Because I never would have said low for that. I don't know if that's something that got overwritten or. But that's a duplicate. I would delete that one. Yeah, because that is a high level of effort to date and ahead.
Each school. We had soldiers and sailors by the army. What was that? 20.
Well, it depends on what we consider resolution. I do think there is potential for a cohesive strategic plan to be developed in that timeframe. In fact, I had a meeting earlier today with a couple of residents that was, I think, very positive and hopeful as to a potential direction that could make sense. So, and when I put that as, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's not the execution of it, but like, what are we going to do to have some clarity on that? I do think I might not have said that a couple of months ago, but I think there is a path that in my head might make sense, and we could put that on for a meeting and talk about it in detail. It's actually going to be discussed at next week's historical commission meeting. I think that's a good time to kind of flesh it out a little more. But in a nutshell, the idea would involve transfer of the property to a third party subject to a historic preservation restriction, both of which are already authorized by town meeting vote. And then whether to fund it, that's a bigger discussion. What level of funding to put toward it.
The ones we have for immediate are capital, harbor, bylaw, school, pickleball courts, townwide field loan. Consider, like, make a decision on the regional health.
So they're going to be, not they, but the opioid working group is going to be on the 24th. Does it make sense to also have that regional health agreement if some of the same people might be there?
So the kind of plan was to call a meeting of the new chairs sometime in August. And this is our work plan. Still sound just to try to get everybody on the same page, what the town for.
I'd like to format it into kind of a nice cohesive document. I think it's good. It just needs to be like maybe tied together with a memo. And also I put together this required list. You know, you'd seen this before.
Last year, this is kind of, you know, table for immediate, separate table for, you know, your turn or whatever.
Yep.
And I mean, I can pull up that slide and see how we want to change things.
Yeah, so maybe if it was for the second meeting in August, just to give a little more, because I want to make sure we really present it in a good way. And I want to make sure that people don't think, because this list, I think, is a pretty daunting list. People need to understand this is in addition to this list. And I think there's a way to communicate that's not like that people just zone out. But I want people to understand that when we say we're busy, we're not just saying that. Because there are still people in the community who think that all they hear is like, oh, we can't do that. And it's like, do you pay attention to what we are doing? Because it's a lot.
I think what we did last is we actually listed baseline functions.
Yep. Yeah.
And then required things.
Yep. That's exactly the same approach I would want to take here. Yeah.
I would also present the list over the last 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I got
I'd
it.
actually start with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so one thing I did, and I only did this today, I didn't put it in the packet, but this is kind of a crude method, but it's quick, which is appealing, is I took the required list and I just went down and put like shaded in green if there was some progress since, some recent progress. So one thing, once we kind of, crystallize this, I could see like for future packets, probably not every packet, but maybe every couple of meetings, include a spreadsheet with some kind of clear color coding, and that would be in your packet. And you could say, oh, it says, you had progress on Page Telecom. What happened there? Now, that tonight because it was an agenda item, but this was something that took me like 5 minutes that could be a really quick way to communicate, hey, something happened in this area. And if you want to know more, you can ask me about it, but maybe something like that instead of like memos, and just to try to make it, just to reduce the time to keep you guys apprised. So
So this meeting, last year we had a 7, not part of 7.
I think it depends on what that agenda looks like. I think the second meeting in August is when we'd anticipate closing the warrant. That actually could dovetail really nicely with this, because that's one of the more tangible steps that you'd be taking of, these are priorities and these things are going to be on the warrant. And I think it could work as long as that doesn't end up becoming a big meeting.
All right. Correspondence, items. Bruce. Yeah, we're all working on it.
I know, says I got as much on the plate.
Okay. What's the other one?
It's a second. The first 2 meetings of leaving from the class.
Chris, dare I ask, was it to do with policy on facility use and public versus private?
No, we can put that on if you like.
We could.
So then what's our,
I didn't want to disrupt the meeting early with that.
Yeah, no, it's a very legitimate item.
Okay, there you go.
so how do we, what?
Voting on it, or just
No.
discussion?
Resident.
No, just when, tonight or in the future? They're not voting on anything now. Yeah, wait.
No, I know when you said to put it on another agenda, like just to discuss it, or?
Well, I mean, so
Discussion.
kind of this format, the idea is the board will put things on for discussion when there's no vote anticipated, but to give them a chance to flesh things out. And then once things are kind of ripe for a vote, they're put as an action item. So I think it would be potentially like a discussion item on policy. And then if it seems that there's a consensus emerging, that would be a future where it's clearly noticed that there might be a vote. So the context for this is under the Town Manager Act. My office is charged with rental and lease and management of town facilities, subject to policies the board establishes. So if there's an issue where, if the board feels that they think my office needs more direction, or they're not happy with how whatever's happening, in the absence of a policy, I'm going to do it the way I think is right. But if the board wants to adopt a policy, that's what I would then follow. So if there was a policy, for instance, that we not make public facilities available for use by private parties, that if the board voted that would be my marching orders going forward. Well, I just stated it more extremely than it might, but
Yeah, having a conversation.
yeah. Displacement of public events for a private user. Yeah.
We'll on the discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Back to this, so how do we manage it if some committee comes to us and wants to do something, or you get pressure from?
If they come to you on August 21st, or if they come to you on September 21st. I think if they come to you on August 21st and say, hey, we think you missed the mark on this, there's this other issue, you overlooked it. I think we should all be open-minded about that. But I think once the board votes its priorities for the year, and something comes in a month later or 3 months later, I think that's when I need to say, look, that's not part of my work program. I can't, and then if they want to try to make a big issue of it, they can come to the board and plead their,
No, I think it should be out as 21st meeting.
Yeah, I think,
Have a conversation, yeah.
yeah, and then the board sets priorities again next, early summer, next June or July, the board will revisit its priorities for FY 27. Okay.
Says to executive session. We're gonna be on track with the session 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7. We'll turn to open session. All purpose. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Good night.